and a very warm welcome to session 3 of the Virtual Global Sources Summit. I'm your host, Meghla Bhardwaj, and I am joined by Karen in Hong Kong. Hi, Karen. How are you doing today? Early morning?
Hi, Meghla. Doing great. How are you?
I'm good. Have you had your big cup of coffee yet?
It's in my hand right now. This is not the usual time I wake up.
Yes. Well, yesterday was so much fun, Karen. I mean, there were just
Yes.
incredible speakers. We got so much feedback from attendees as well, saying that the content was very informational, very valuable. So, yeah, it was a really good day yesterday. What did you think?
Yeah, I learned so much from all the different speakers, and some of the suppliers were interesting. And I just kept thinking about it even after the session. And I have so much questions for you after this because you're the pro in sourcing as well.
Cool. So, yeah, today we've got an awesome lineup of speakers and topics as well. So, first of all, we've got Amy Weiss coming up, and she's going to be talking about advanced sourcing strategies to find better suppliers. Then we've got Tim Jordan, who's going to be talking about Mexico, sourcing in Mexico. Benjamin Hopwood from Gembah is going to be talking about how to increase your profitability when you're sourcing. And then we've also got CJ Rosenbaum, who's going to be talking about how to prevent your supplier from selling your products on Amazon. And Karen, what kinds of suppliers and products do we have today?
Well, we'll have 3 suppliers for this session. All from different places, from Korea, from China. They're going to be promoting their air purifier, handbags, and even computer adapters. Some high-tech stuff they have there. And then also at the end of the session, we'll have quizzes and prizes.
Yay.
We'll have the mega prize at the end of the session. So remember to stay till the end.
Yes, and we're not telling people what the mega prize is, but it is worth
Yep.
1,500 US dollars. So it's a huge mega prize, and you've got to stay until the end to see what it is and to stand a chance to win. Okay, so before we invite Amy on stage, I just want to give a quick shout out to our sponsors as well, SellerX and Gembah. Thank you so much for partnering with us, for sponsoring the summit. Let's quickly take a look at this video about Gembah. So this is an exclusive offer that Gembah has for Global Sources Virtual Summit attendees. And if you do have an idea of a product, reach out to the experts at Gembah and they might be able to bring your product idea to life. All right, let's take a look at this video about SellerX. So SellerX is an aggregator. They buy Amazon businesses. And if you are ready to sell your business, or if you're thinking about it, then reach out to them for a free consultation, and they will do evaluation of your business. All right, so let's get started. And Karen, I'm going to see you in about an hour with some exciting suppliers. And in the meantime, I'm going to invite Amy on stage.
Okay, see you in a bit.
See you in a bit. Bye. All right, so let's get started. And we have Amy Weiss from Amazing at Home. Hi, Amy.
Hi, Meghla. It's great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us. Really, really good to have you here. So, yeah, super excited about your topic as well, because you are, so experienced in sourcing and product development and e-commerce and the whole thing, actually. I think you're probably the one person who's a master at everything when it comes to product development and e-commerce. So yeah, really interested about the topic that you are going to be covering. So why don't we just get started? Share your screen and let's get right into it.
Okay, let me just get set up here. Almost there. I just want to make sure that I'm sharing the correct screen here.
Awesome. In the meantime, let me just say hi to a couple of people who are joining in. So Tina is joining from Sydney, Australia. Hi, Tina. How are you? We've got Young Rich Man. Okay. Goldstein from Nigeria. Hi, how are you? Everybody else watching, let us know where you're joining us from. Which city are you from? Type it in the comments. Okay, I see your slides, Amy. I'm going to share them.
Yes.
Okay, let's get started.
All right. Well, thank you again for having me. And I'm excited to talk to you guys today about some advanced sourcing strategies. It's really, really important when you're sourcing to be able to not only find suppliers globally, and we're going to talk a little bit about that today, but also to know how to do things with your suppliers that are going to enable your supply chain to be more fluid and keep you in stock. And I'm also going to put in some logistics tips as well today, because as you guys, I'm sure, have noticed, in the last year, it's been a little bit crazy, and it just seems to continue to get crazier as we move through. So let's get into it. So the first thing I'm going to be talking about is how to find new suppliers globally. Then I'm going to talk about supplier relationships, contracts and inspections, shipping and ship by dates, and third-party logistics. So the first thing, a lot of you might be wondering, especially with the increased cost of sourcing from China, you might be wondering, how can I find suppliers in other countries? How can I find a different supplier in China? You know, you might be wondering about that. And the key to finding suppliers around the world is actually to know your process. You want to know your manufacturing process, because that is going to enable you to search globally. Most manufacturers, as you know, outside of China are not on Alibaba or not in the global sources directory. As much as we love them, most of the manufacturers that you're going to find in other countries are not going to be found in those major directories. So it's really important, if you understand your manufacturing process, like if you're doing cut and sew or blow molding or whatever your process is, then you're able to search for that globally, and you're able to find some more local results. So I want you to search by your manufacturing process. For example, cut and sew, clothing and textiles, plastics, electronics, food products, whether you're looking for a co-packer, whatever it is. I want you to know your process. And the thing is, if you know your process, this is also going to save you money with your supplier, because you aren't going to be coming into this situation blind. That supplier is going to see you as more of a partner, and you're going to be able to work together, and you're going to immediately get better prices. You're going to be able to easily vet your suppliers, because if you don't understand how your cut and sew product is made, then how are you going to know when you get on a video call with that supplier, or you go visit that supplier, or you look at pictures of that supplier online? How are you actually going to know, if that supplier is who they say they are? If you don't see any sewing machines or anything that's consistent with a cut and sew factory, you can't really vet that supplier. And when you're trying to source globally, it's very important for you to understand those manufacturing processes, so that number one, you can have conversations even where there's language barriers. And number two, you can vet your suppliers. And number three, you can become a better partner and thus get better prices and have a better long-term relationship with your supplier. So the other tip that I have for you about searching globally for suppliers is, once you know your manufacturing process, search in the local language. So for example, if I'm searching for a cut and sew manufacturer in Mexico, I'm going to translate my language into Spanish, into the Spanish language, and I'm going to search for that term in Spanish. And you'll notice when you start searching in the search engine, Google, whatever search engine you're using, you'll notice suggested terms. And then you can follow those suggested terms, and you can actually see manufacturers and stuff on Google Maps, and it'll tell you, hey, this is a manufacturer. You can see reviews of some of those manufacturers, and you'll find smaller manufacturers that work well for micro brands that are not necessarily in larger global directories. So, and then you can also see from those suggested searches that pop up what other words that you can use to describe it. So you can kind of go down the rabbit hole, and you will be surprised how many suppliers you can find globally simply by understanding your process. You want to search by process and not product, because on Alibaba, on global sources, there's really great ways to search, even with a picture of a product, but you don't have that option when you're sourcing globally. So you really need to understand that process so that you can search by it. And then finally, reverse searching trade shows is another really great way to find suppliers globally. So there's trade shows everywhere, right? Look at those trade shows in Mexico, in Brazil, in India, and register for those trade shows. A lot of times it's a free registration, or follow those trade shows, and you're going to discover more manufacturers that way. So reverse searching trade shows is another way to get exposed to all different, the language that's used to describe different manufacturers in that country, as well as be exposed to those manufacturers that are taking part in those trade shows. So definitely wherever you're wanting to source from, look up those trade shows and reverse search them. The second thing that is really, really important is your supplier relationships. Sometimes finding a new supplier isn't always the best option, right? Suppliers are struggling right now. There's high employee turnover, there's increased raw material prices, there's higher order rates, right? So suppliers are really having a hard time, and your relationship with them is going to go a really long way. A lot of times, if you can fix a relationship, or you can build a stronger relationship, you'll be surprised at how much can change with your current supplier. So take the time to get to know your supplier, take the time to build a relationship, to share your business plans with them. So have a call, build the relationship, find some commonalities in the current environment. When I do calls with my clients and their suppliers, the biggest thing that they tell me is, wow, Amy, you spent a lot of time just learning about their family and how long they've been in business and all of this. And I learned from that, you know, my clients will say, I learned from that it's not so important to get right down to business. And, you know, these suppliers are human, and it's okay to start a conversation about, hey, how's business going for you? Here's my business plans. What do you have going on? You know, do you, especially like in China with Chinese New Year and stuff, a lot of times the workers after Chinese New Year, they don't come back. So suppliers deal with high worker turnover at that time, and it's very, very difficult for them. And, you know, you need to keep that in mind, because if they had a high employee turnover after Chinese New Year, then your products could be impacted, because the same people who were working that production line the first time may not be the same people that are working it the second time. And so you need to always be aware of what's going on with your suppliers, and you have to build that relationship so that you can get even better results. Also, explain your priorities. As I mentioned earlier, you're going to be able to get your orders to the front, and also understand what barriers to your orders there might be, right? So it's really important to tell your supplier, hey, I'm launching a new sales channel, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, right? And I need your help. Like, I'm gonna have increased production. In fact, I have a supplier in the United States, and my sales just really increased this last Q4, and my supplier's lead times increased. So they went to 11 weeks of lead time, and here I was with increased sales, and I was like, wow, I can't wait 11 weeks. I need this stuff now. And the supplier came back to me and said, well, we need to know if you're going to, do a larger order. We need to know that ahead of time. And I explained, well, I didn't know my sales were going to increase. It's just the current climate. So just keeping each other informed before you need to place that order as you're experiencing things is really important, so that they're busy too. They can keep you informed. And remember, it's a partnership. You need to work together for the best possible results. So let's get into contracts. This is another thing that really, really surprises me. A lot of people do not have contracts, the proper contracts with their suppliers. This is how you're able to get priority. I recently had an order delivered to me that of 1,008 units, and all of my units were unsellable. Every single one of them was unsellable. So I got 1,008 units in my warehouse that I cannot use. I have a good relationship with the supplier, and they were actually quite embarrassed of the quality of what had happened. And I learned that they didn't actually manufacture it. They outsourced it to a partner manufacturer because they got busy. And so the quality was not there. My contract is what saved me. They had to remake everything within a specified timeline at no cost to me. And they were held to that contract because it was drawn up by my Chinese attorney and followed by China law. And my Chinese attorney checks to ensure that that supplier can be financially responsible and can be held to that contract. So no matter where you're sourcing from, you need to ensure that you have written contracts in place. General conditions agreements or purchase orders with terms written on them. You're more likely to be a priority for your supplier if they have a contract with you that incurs certain penalties when they do not deliver. So what kinds of things should we include in our contracts? First thing is timelines and penalties. You need to have timelines outlined. You need to, say, hey, this is the amount of lead time. This is the delivery that we've agreed on, the delivery timelines that we've agreed on. And these are the penalties if those things are not delivered on time. Secondly, inspections. You need to outline that certain inspections are going to be done by a third party and certain penalties within there. Now, I'm not a lawyer. I would make sure that you have a lawyer in whatever country you are sourcing from. If you're wondering how to find a lawyer in your country that you're sourcing from, it's really great to get a referral from a local lawyer because they have access to the bar. They know different resources and databases, and they can help you find a trusted attorney in the country that you're sourcing from. But my attorney has more than paid for himself multiple times, and it increases the valuation of your brand. Because if you have a proprietary supply chain that's protected by contracts and you have really great timelines, that is going to really increase the valuation of your brand. That looks very, very good to a buyer. So a few more things about contracts. You want to also put price increases and holds in your contract. So like, that the hold of this price that was quoted at this time is good for this amount of time, right? So that you don't have problems with a supplier suddenly increasing the price on you. You also want to put your payment terms inside of your contract. So maybe for the first order, we're going to do this much down, this much in reserve. For our second order, we're going to do this much. For our third order and following, we're going to do this much. If you're in retail, you may need to negotiate net 30 terms, net 60, that kind of thing. But either way, you want to negotiate that from the beginning. You don't want any surprises with your suppliers. Next, your NNN and NDA agreements. I know so many people spend so much money on patents and trademarks, but if you aren't protecting yourself legally in the country that you're sourcing from with the proper agreement for that country, an NDA agreement is not going to do you any good in China. So in China, you want to have an NNN agreement, and it needs to be drawn up by an attorney in that country that understands that local law, so that supplier can actually be held accountable to that. If a supplier signs an NDA agreement in English and they sign it without their official seal in China, right? That agreement is useless in China. So, you really need to make sure that you're protecting yourself and your business, but also you're protecting that supplier by both of you having a written agreement together. It makes it a more professional relationship. And then don't forget about the correct signature. A signature is not a signature everywhere. In the US, a signature is fine. That's okay. We can sign things. In China, a signature is not fine. It has to be a red seal. And I have to tell you, so many people ask me for my NNN agreement template. They say, hey, can I just get a template from you? And then I'll change some words around and I'll have my supplier sign it. And I remind them that never once has my attorney not had to send my contract back to a supplier for an incorrect signature. Not once has my attorney not had to send an agreement back to a supplier and get the correct signature. So it's very, very important that you don't use templates if you don't understand how to check for the correct signature and how to check for things done properly in the local laws. So this is really important in advanced sourcing strategies. It's going to help you in the long run, and it's going to increase the valuation of your business and cut down on any logistics issues that you have and give you priority with your suppliers. Inspections. Remember what I mentioned about after Chinese New Year, there's a lot of employee turnover, right? This can cause a lot of quality control issues. You never know what's going on with the supplier. You don't know what the status of their equipment is, what's going on with their business at the time. So you don't want to do an inspection with the first order and skip the inspection in the second order. There's some different types of quality control in the advanced strategies that you should be aware of. And let's talk about them. The first is factory audits. I want to give you an example of why a factory audit is important. This is when you're considering using a supplier. You can send in nearly any inspection company to do a factory audit. And what this does is it checks that they are who they say they are, that they look at their staff, they look and make sure that the certifications that they have are actually valid and not just something that they paid for, right? Or something that they're saying that they have. They check their financials, they make sure that they're registered, that their business is registered, all of that, right? There's been many cases of factory audits where someone will go and check audit that factory and there will be no factory there, nothing at that address. So who are you talking to, right? We had a situation in our mastermind group, and our sourcing agent had found a really great supplier for this person, and they got a sample from the factory that was really good. The communication was top notch. We did a WeChat video call. Everything looked really great at the factory, and the factory audit came back, and the person that they were talking to this entire time, their contact at the factory, was nowhere on that factory's staff list. So this was a third party that they were dealing with that didn't even work at that factory. That third party could have never been held to a contract. So that's why factory audits are so important. Your factory might seem amazing, but we need to take the time. And a factory audit's cost is like the same as an inspection. So there's just no reason not to get it done, especially when we're finding that supplier who's going to be our partner. So don't skip the factory audits. Next is mid-production inspections. A lot of people don't do mid-production inspections, and these are really, really important for new products or if your supplier is going through a transition, right? If there's a high employee turnover, whatever's happening at the time. Instead of getting a post-production inspection where the production's already done and the mistakes are already made and that's increasing your timeline, get a mid-production inspection. Actually have the inspector go in the middle of production and correct any mistakes right then and there. And that way you make sure that the end of production inspection is going to pass and everything's good, and you're not going to increase those timelines. Post-production inspections, this is what most people do, but again, don't skip them. It doesn't matter if it's your third, fourth, fifth order from the supplier. It's really, really important, and it protects you. And then don't forget about product compliance and certifications. Check for updates Recently, Amazon specifically has very much cracked down on product compliance. And they're looking for a lot of the same compliance regulations that major retailers are looking for. So they've been under a microscope for compliance, and you may suddenly get flagged for your product and be asked to provide a ton of compliance documents or a ton of compliance updates, right? So in order for you to continue selling that product. So it's important for you to get in familiarity with compliance outside of Amazon so that when that happens, you're ready and you can ensure that you don't have to shut down your business because of the cost of compliance. And then you can plan ahead for that. All right, let's talk about shipping and ship by dates. Recently, shipping has been really, really expensive. I know we've had tons of port delays, port congestion, container shortages. I was able to actually pay the same price as prior to the shipping increases because I was able to take advantage of space that my suppliers had already bought with certain shippers. So I'm going to give you some tips today that are really going to help you decrease your shipping prices and help you make sure that you're getting the right prices and the right services from your shipping providers. The first thing is to shop around. Get 3 or 4 quotes from trusted providers. Different providers have different space on different ships, and it's important to note that their prices aren't always going to be the same. So even though I have certain shipping providers that I absolutely love that give me great quotes, never put your eggs all in one basket because different shipping providers are going to be able to provide different quotes to you. Always, always, always shop around. Next, understand what is and isn't included in each of your quotes, right? A lot of times, it only gets your goods to the port and then you end up with another bill getting your goods to your warehouse or to Amazon. So it's really important to understand, okay, is customs clearance included? That kind of stuff is really important. Next, know your numbers
Amy,
and adjust. Yeah.
Sorry, I just wanted to do a quick time check. So if you could start wrapping up.
Yep.
Maybe another 5 minutes or so.
Our last slide, so we'll get it done. All right.
Awesome.
So know your numbers and adjust your pricing accordingly, right? If your shipping rates have gone up, don't be afraid to increase your prices. You've probably noticed that a lot of your competitors have also increased their prices. And then ship more inventory earlier, right? Like get it out the door so that you can avoid problems that come along with delays. And then use that pre-purchase space. Like I told you about with my suppliers, I was able to get space that they had already pre-purchased and keep my prices low. All right, 3PLs and restock limits. As we know, this has been a problem with Amazon. So make sure that you understand how to do this. So first of all, again, shop around. You want to get quotes from 3 or 4 trusted providers. Know the difference between a warehouse and 3PL and know what you need. A 3PL is going to provide pick and pack services. They're going to ship unit by unit. A warehouse is going to store a pallet at a time and can ship sometimes small bulk orders. So the prices are going to be different depending on those services. So make sure that you are on top of that and you understand what you need and who offers what and compare that pricing. Again, know your numbers, so important. And then keep stock in China with your supplier. If you have to order more from your supplier to save money, in most cases, your supplier is going to have storage space. So keep that stock there. There's also tons of prep centers and stuff like that in China that you can use, in Hong Kong that you can use, and then you can keep that stock there and just ship it out as you need it. And then don't forget to develop new production timelines. If you order more inventory at a time for those existing products that are already selling, this can really reduce your out of stock times. That's it.
All right, awesome. That was a lot of info, good info. And we've got a couple of questions too. So let me just remove your slides. Oh, there we go. Awesome. Okay, so yeah, lots of good info there, Amy. And let's see if we have any questions. All right, so Brian is asking, do you skip inspections on your order that was unsellable?
No. It was part of my contract. The problem was it was a new product, and we did a mid-production inspection, and at mid-production everything was fine, but we skipped the end of production inspection on that one, which we shouldn't have done. We should have doubled up on that. Luckily, as I mentioned, my contract saved me, because my contract said that they had to deliver the quality of goods in line with the samples provided. And so, inspection or not, it was not in line with the quality of the samples provided. So they did have to remake that whole order.
Right. So Goldstorm is asking, how can I get Amy's email address? And so I shared your website. It's amazingathome.com. So reach out to Amy via her website. Okay, what happens with contracts in China with a sourcing agent? They don't share manufacturer's details. So how should the contract be between you and the sourcing agent as opposed to a tripartite agreement?
So I'm going to preface this with, again, I'm not a lawyer. So that's smart business owners hire the professional that is trained in this area. However, when it does come to, you need to be aware of both trading companies and sourcing agents. So trading company cannot be held to a contract because they're not the manufacturer of the goods. You should still have some things in writing. That's good, but it's just important for you to note that when it comes to the actual manufacturing, you can't really prevent a trading company, your products from being sold to someone else if the manufacturer isn't being held to that and the trading company is getting it from the manufacturer. So that's just something important to note. It doesn't mean don't use trading companies. If your product isn't unique and you don't care, like, great. If you get a great price, a great service from your trading company, awesome. Trading companies can be amazing. They can be really great partners. So find the right partner for you in your business. When it comes to a sourcing agent, yes, you should have a contract that outlines all of that. Like, hey, who's responsible if the quality of the goods aren't there, right? It's going to have to be your sourcing agent and their company, right? So make sure that yes, you have a contract between them, and then they will have their own contracts, I'm sure, with the suppliers that they choose. But just so that you know, some sourcing agents do reveal the manufacturer. So pick the sourcing agent that's right for you. There are sourcing agents that work for you and aren't afraid to tell you the manufacturer, and aren't afraid to work with you and help you negotiate with your manufacturer. So yeah, that's something to keep in mind.
Right. Tablin is saying, good information. I'm very grateful to be able to join this channel. Great. So guys, let us know if you have any more questions for Amy. Type them in the comments. And if you want more information about Amy and her services, her website is amazingathome.com. And Amy, you're going to be back in a couple of hours for our prize giveaway. And we're not going to say what the prize is, but there's a mega prize coming up.
Love it. So, yes. And Megla, did we mention my offer to my everyone's offer that I offered? Do we need to mention that now, or are you including that somewhere on the global sources?
So we are, so everyone's offer you can mention now if you have an offer for everybody, but you're also giving away one prize during the quiz. And so that is a 1-hour coaching call with you. So we'll announce that towards the end of this session. But do you want to talk about the offer that you have for everybody?
Yes, definitely. So something that I love to do, as Megla mentioned, I'm kind of a jack of all trades, but I started as a copywriter. And so I do copywriting and advertising and all that fun stuff. And of course, business consulting. And I love to look at listings. It's one of my favorite things to do. So I have a free offer for all of you. If you would like me to look at your listing and to actually go through it, share my screen, a video of me talking through your listing, share with me whatever in this form on this page, you can share with me, hey, Amy, my PPC is so expensive, and I'll tell you exactly what's wrong. Hey, Amy, can I just do anything better with my listing? I'll tell you what you can do better. Are my photos good? You know, whatever it is my use of SEO good? Is there anything that I can improve? I'm going to look at it from that perspective, and I will send you a video of me personally going through your listing. It's something that I really enjoy. There's no strings attached. Yeah, it's a way I learn, and you can learn, and I can help the community.
Awesome. That is a great offer, Amy. So guys, take advantage of this. AmazingAtHome/listing-review. Get Amy to review your listing. All right. Well, Amy, thank you so much for joining us and for sharing all of this information with our audience. And I will see you in a couple of hours.
Okay, sounds great. And Megla, when are we going to give away the coaching call?
At the same time when you're back.
Oh, perfect. All right. Sounds good. Bye, everybody.
All right.
Thank you.
See you later. Bye. Okay, so let's move on to the next presentation. And we've got Mr. Tim Jordan, the Tim Jordan, waiting backstage. Hi, Tim. How are you?
Good. How are you? I'm
good. I'm doing well. So I hope you finished eating your salad.
Kind of. I'm still pecking away at it. Am I good?
Yep, you're all good.
For everybody that's wondering what just happened in the off camera, I told Megla that I really hope there was a big piece of green lettuce stuck in my teeth, so all of you can make fun of me when I came on camera. Sorry, I couldn't make it happen.
Oh, damn. Next time, try harder, Tim.
I'm such a failure.
All right. So, Tim, you're going to be talking about sourcing from Mexico. So, do you have slides to share? And do you want to just get started? Let's do this.
All right. So, share. You got my screen?
Yes.
Okay.
Got it.
So, I am not Latin. I'm not Latin American. There is nothing Latin at all about me, but I do have some experience trying to source in Latin America. So when I go through this presentation, what I want to do for all of you is give just an overview, kind of a very high level, 30,000 feet view of what's going on with maybe the interest and the excitement of sourcing in somewhere like Latin America. Now, I'm going to use terms like Latin America and Mexico. Generally, I'm saying Latin America in general, but some of the content and some of the stuff that I'm talking about specific to Mexico. I have been attempting to and also successfully sourcing in Latin America in one form or another since about 2017. So about 5 years now. So some of the stuff that I've learned were hard fought lessons and things that took me a long time to learn, and maybe some blood, sweat, and tears even. So hopefully some of that I experienced and that wisdom that I gained, I can share today. One thing that I want to clear up is that this idea, this concept of sourcing in Latin America is not new. There are a lot of people that are saying, oh, this is just something that's happening right now because of the logistics situation coming from Asia. Like nobody really cared about sourcing in Latin America until logistics significantly slowed down. And now there's this rush to try to source from somewhere else. That's not actually true, right? This fire isn't new. The political situation that's been going on in Asia, specifically China, for, 4 or 5 years now, that increased tariffs and duties, those played a large part in things. Also, prices have been going up in China for manufacturing. The reason that the world essentially is manufactured from China from, the past 50 or 60 years is because, frankly, they're pretty good, but they're also very inexpensive. It's lower labor. Well, when the labor rates and the labor production costs start to increase, some of that ability for specifically China to keep that market starts to decrease a little bit. I have this analogy that I use that I entitle like Porsches on dirt roads. And what that pertains to is one of the first times I ever went to China, and I was going in these very rural kind of production centered cities in China. And I remember going there thinking, hey, this is going to be like a second world country, right? Everything's going to be underdeveloped. It's going to be very old world. And in a lot of ways, that's one of the cool things about China is there's still a lot of traditional old world, kind of old world vibe. But I would drive down these long dirt roads in my rented car, and we'd go way out in the middle of nowhere to a dingy factory. It's dirty. It's not pretty. And the parking lot would be full of Porsches on the gravel parking lot. And I started to realize over time that kind of concept of really nice cars on dirt roads represented what's going on with China. And it's that the manufacturers, in a lot of cases, are becoming very wealthy because they're very busy and they're very successful. And as that happens, they become less and less willing to essentially work very inexpensively and especially work for small orders. See, we as e-commerce sellers think that, a normal size production order is 2,000 units or 1,500 units. But in the grand global scale of sourcing, it's not. It's very small. So I had to convince myself that I wasn't crazy in this thinking that maybe we need the factory owners more than the factory owners need us. And that was an interesting change in the way that I thought. But because of this concept of Porsches on dirt roads, these Chinese, especially Chinese manufacturers becoming very wealthy, they're able to start raising their prices. And the costs from production in China have been going up pretty substantially at a pretty substantial rate over about the past 10 years. So my point is, this fire is not new. And in my picture here, you see probably one of my neighbors here in Alabama represented here throwing gasoline on a fire. This fire has been burning for a while. This fire being the interest or the desire to source products in Latin America. Just recently, we've put fuel on the fire. We've poured gasoline on it, right? Especially with the logistics situation from with COVID, and then also the increased duties and tariffs. But this isn't just a reactionary thing. People have been interested in this for a long time. Again, 2017, I set up a company in Central America, in Guatemala, and we were actually sourcing products for these very reasons. So don't think that what I'm talking about today is just a short-term blip, a short-term interest for a problem that doesn't really exist, or an interest that doesn't exist. It's existed for a long time. And the person that gave me this analogy of this fire is not new, there's just fuel on it, is actually the director of Alibaba North America. And they're trying to bring in North American suppliers into the sourcing world. And that's what a lot of their data has proven to them. So let me tell you a little bit of my history of sourcing in Latin America. And I call it the idea that almost worked because it didn't work perfect. As I was in, I think that this maybe a little history lesson in what I was doing gives some good insight into why I think sourcing in Latin America is still important, right? Some of the reasons, at least. The first thing is, as my partner Norm Farrar says, is you don't want to sit on a one-legged stool, right? If your chair only has one leg, it's likely to fall over at some point. And a lot of times in the typical e-commerce business or small brand, micro brand world, we limit ourselves and we destabilize our business by only having a one-legged stool for our supply chain. We have one supplier, we have one region that we source our products from. So even if I have 20 SKUs, 20 products, and I'm sourcing from China, and all of a sudden the cost of a container goes from $3,000 to $20,000, my entire business is at risk because I didn't have a lot of stability. I saw this a long time ago, and I've been sourcing products from the US, from Latin America, from India. I got to go visit India and with Megla a couple of years ago. It's a great experience, and I have suppliers there and contacts there. And having those capabilities allowed me to stabilize my business a little bit. Another thing that was a big kind of, I don't know, what's the word, eye-opener for me, was the concept of Tom's shoes. All right, now Tom's shoes are just basic canvas shoes. I've talked about these a lot in regards to like brand building. And there's nothing special about them. They are very basic shoes. They are very simple canvas slippers almost, but they sell for 60 or 70 American dollars, US dollars, because there's a story built throughout them. People actually love brandability. They love this idea of a cause. They love this idea of culture in the products that they buy. And it led me to this idea of storytelling, right? People that create brands like Warby Parker have a story attached to their product, and that turns from storytelling to story selling. Okay, so again, my history, I wanted to stabilize my business. I want to find other places to source. I was looking at these canvas shoes from Tom's that were selling for an incredibly high price just because they had this story attached to them, right? Like this really cool buy a pair, give a pair. And I realized that if I could build a brand with a story, that would give me maybe a marketing advantage. And then I had to go back even a little bit further to my college years when I used to go and do relief and humanitarian work in Honduras, in Central America, one of the roughest places I've ever been. And I've been to a lot of places. And at the same time, there was a lot of political discussion. All right. This is, remember, 4 or 5 years ago, about Latin Americans entering the U.S., right? The border wall with Mexico. And do we let these migrant caravans in? And I don't want to make this political, but in my opinion, I have a heart for especially people in underdeveloped countries, but I don't think the solution is to get in caravans and walk to a different country and enter illegally, not because of the legality of it, but because we're stripping the most resourceful portion of that population from that country. So those people that are getting on the road and walking 1,500 miles are the ones that have a little bit of money, they have some resources, they have some gumption, or they have some motivation, or they have their health, right? We need them to actually help develop that country. And I thought one of the great ways to do that would be entrepreneurism. So that's how I got started sourcing there. As all of this came together, I can create a brand with a great story. We can empower an underdeveloped region by bringing business to them and creating entrepreneurship opportunities, all that great stuff. Now, the reason that I say it almost worked is because it was not a giant success. Yes, I have a lot of products in this room with me that are still being made there. And eventually that business I gave to my employees and let them just have that business and keep running with it. And they're still operating. But there were definitely some challenges that I was not aware of. And if I could go back in time, I think I could make it a lot more successful knowing what I know now. And those are some of the things that I'm going to share. All right. So one reason why it sucked, one list of reasons why it sucked, some of the things that made it difficult. Now, I'm a huge proponent of sourcing in Latin America, but I want to be very clear with you and explain some of the struggles. One of the struggles is money. It's hard to manage and it's hard to get for those manufacturers. A lot of the smaller manufacturers that we need to be dealing with, the SMBs, the small, medium-sized businesses that match well with our small and medium-sized businesses, they don't have a lot of money for investments, right? They have a hard time maybe scaling up with production machinery. They might have a hard time even managing larger orders because a lot of times they don't work through banks. They work on cash basis. So some of the best manufacturers and the best artisans that I ever worked with didn't have bank accounts. We had to send money down through intermediaries and take them cash, and then they would have to try to source new materials as fast as I wanted them to, which might be faster than they were used to. And there were cash flow problems. Another problem is, I kind of alluded to already, is investments. Investments make the world work for those that can get investments, right? If I wanted to start a new business right now, I could raise tons of money. If I were a manufacturer in most places of the world and I wanted to buy new machinery, new tooling, new technology, I could raise the money to do it. But a lot of places in Latin America, that has been difficult. It's getting a little better, but it has been difficult. So the ability for these businesses to scale quickly, these manufacturers scale quickly, has been slim to none, right? For a lot of different places. Also, a lot of relationship bridges have been burned. Now, this term I use, gringos have been turds, is a nice version of what I might say otherwise. And gringos just being North Americans, right? Not necessarily a bad word. I used to think it was a bad word, but I'm a gringo, right? In the Latin American world, I am 100% gringo. And there was a long period of time where gringo companies or American US companies were trying to utilize the seemingly inexpensive labor in Latin America without having sensitivity to the culture, and ruined a lot of potential relationships to the point where a lot of manufacturers and a lot of artisans in Latin America didn't want to deal with Americans. They said, they come in, they pound us down on our pricing, they negotiate with us. We take the jobs because it's the biggest job we've ever been offered. And by the end of it, we realize we didn't make any money. Or we buy special machinery for this order and they don't reorder from us. There's a lot of reasons why some of those bridges were burned. Also, when it comes to manufacturing in Latin America, there has been a slower adoption of education and leadership. It's somewhat lacking compared to a lot of places. If we look at somewhere like China, they have engineers everywhere, engineering, production, manufacturing, metallurgists, like all of these different career paths and specialties exist in abundance. But a lot of those education tracks have not been as popular and readily available in Latin America. So some of the things that are needed, the specialties, the engineering that are needed to quickly increase the productivity of manufacturing in a certain region has been lacking, right? And a lot of that has caused a little bit of a slump in the leadership ability for organizations, for nonprofits, for investment banks, all sorts of these entities that would increase the ability to manufacture in those areas. And another thing that I noticed that caused some problems is that So gringos were looking for manufacturers. Manufacturers were looking for us, but we never met on the road being a hypothetical analogy, right? So if I'm walking this way and I'm looking for a manufacturer and that manufacturer is walking looking for me, if we're not in the same lane or on the same road, we're never going to find each other, right? So they were looking, but we were always looking in different places. And a lot of that has to do with just a lack of consolidated information, consolidated training, consolidated gathering of resources and gathering of communications. This April, there's going to be one of the first of its kind trade shows called Evo Latam in Mexico City. That's going to be a sourcing show. And it's never been done before. Those kind of things just didn't exist. So at the time, we were really struggling to find these manufacturers, and these manufacturers are struggling to find us because it was mostly done through word of mouth. There wasn't big online directories. There weren't trade shows. None of those things were really existing, specifically in Mexico and Central America for the small and medium-sized businesses. Now, large manufacturing, of course, has been in Mexico, but it's like Ford engine production, right? But we as e-commerce sellers, we're micro brands. We're very small brands. So we need the smaller manufacturers. We just couldn't find each other. Okay. So things started to get a lot better for us in our ability to source when we learned to find the good suppliers, the good manufacturers through personal relationships. When we built personal relationships specifically with local assets and local contacts, those local resources were able to connect us with more local resources that began to improve our ability to scale quickly. We also found out that big companies were searching, but they didn't want to work with but that didn't work for small manufacturers, right? So things started improving when we realized that we had to come in with a different message than Ford Motor Company or Coca-Cola and their glass bottle manufacturing or things like that. When we changed our messaging, these smaller manufacturers that matched well with us started listening and realizing, oh, there are people out here that want to work with us and there are great resources. So that started to achieve what I call parity. And parity meaning equality, equal size, equal attention, and equal objectives between small and medium-sized businesses. So a smaller manufacturer whose sweet spot is a 2,000 unit order of fairly customized products, with a brand like myself that wants 2,000 units of a fairly customized product at the right pricing and it matched well, right? And e-commerce accelerated this because e-commerce created hundreds of thousands of SMB micro brands like the ones that I've owned or do own. And it created an opportunity for that matching to occur, which significantly changed things. Latin America is also getting better because investments are coming. If we look at the state of Latin America, specifically Mexico and Central America, a lot of the manufacturers in Asia that have decided they want to also not sit on a one-legged stool and maybe stretch out their geographical legs, so to speak, have started investing money, machinery, equipment, engineering, technology, and labor into Latin America, right? They are investing in the region, which is nice. Also, a lot of American companies are doing the same, and it's bringing a lot of that education, that engineering, that technology, and that money. So all of those things are being inserted faster in Latin America, which is accelerating the manufacturing capabilities, especially of the small and medium-sized manufacturers, which is great. And also education's happening with the internet and with enough people trying to find each other on that hypothetical road. We're going to start meeting and we're going to start matching. We're going to start finding each other. And that education is beginning to create a scenario where we can actually build communities and we can build relationships that are very meaningful and scalable and starting to match who needs what with who can produce it, right? I don't know if that made sense, Megla, but you kind of know what I meant. So time has allowed some of these things to start occurring naturally, which is really great. So let's talk about what's easily sourceable in Mexico right now. Excuse me. Right now, the types of products that are easily sourceable, this isn't an exhaustive list, but this is kind of the standard list, is very similar to, say, in India, right? Very, very similar list. Woods, leathers, ceramics, textiles, metals, and the metals are typically simpler to produce. They're forged, stamped, or molded. They're not like heavily machined. If you can see my camera like this microphone, it's not heavily machined, CNC'd, very, very fine detailed metal. It is more of your, I'm trying to find something. I don't see anything off the top of my head. Like your home decor, maybe your kitchen stuff, things that don't require as much technology and machinery. Also, a lot of agriculture. Now, I know agriculture typically doesn't apply to most e-commerce sellers, although there are some exceptions. For instance, I know a lot of people that sell a lot of sage or a lot of other like dried plants that you can fairly easily get. I think still to this date, Mexico's largest export to the U.S. is fresh agriculture, right? So a lot of avocados, limes, mangoes, a lot of wheats, a lot of corns, things like that, but doesn't necessarily apply to e-commerce sellers, but I still have to put on the list. So these are the things that are most easily sourceable for SMBs now. But there are areas that are getting better, specifically in Mexico. Plastics, injection molding, reverse molding, vacuum molding, EVA foam, silicones, latexes, light machining. Now, I'm not going to say that your next cell phone with little metal parts and metal cases is going to be made in Mexico in the next 3 years. But as that technology, specifically from Asia, starts to be invested in Latin America, we are starting to see more and more of that occur, which is nice. Also, we're seeing a big influx in the capabilities of carbon fiber and other composites like fiberglass, these synthetic materials that can be used for nearly anything. Also, electronics are coming. Right now, Brazil in Latin America is the leader in electronics production. But just my hunch is it's going to be fairly ineffective to source especially small quantities of electronics for about another 5 years. So if I had to shake my crystal ball and look at it, I would say electronics are still probably a good 5 years out, if not more. So let's talk about the business side positives. Let's talk about why specifically Mexico is so interesting, especially for North American and even UK and European brands, is one, there are a lot of trade benefits. Getting products in and out of the country is easy and cheap. This started back in, I think, the early 90s with the NAFTA, North American Free Trade deal. And a lot of the products, for example, that are suffering from like 110% or 120% duties coming in from China, the anti-dumping duties, are free to come into the U.S., right? So when we're looking at being able to cut our production costs, not having to pay expensive duties on some products is a huge game changer. Also, transit times. Again, not beating up on China. I still think 90% of the world is going to be made in China for a long time. But if I'm trying to ship products from China, it could take 45 days, 60 days, right? Even when things were at their best, about 30 days to get in and get through the port. Most places in North Mexico, the northern half of Mexico, Guadalajara, Monterrey, around Mexico City, which is kind of central, I can usually have it in the U.S. in just a few days on a truck. It doesn't take very long at all. Relationships are a little bit easier to foster with geographical closeness, right? Geographical proximity. Now, I have great relationships in Asia. I'm not saying I don't, but it's a little easier to jump on the phone at noon my time and talk to somebody in the same time zone as me, right? And I think that just being neighbors geographically make those relationships a little bit easier to foster. I think there is more of a willingness to trade, meaning there are less Porsches on the dirt roads, so to speak. Pardon my analogy if that doesn't make sense, but in Latin America, I think that the willingness is a little bit, well, let's just say this, not Latin America, but in the developing countries, right? So whether it's Vietnam or India or some places in Eastern Europe or Latin America, the willingness to trade, the willingness to produce, the smaller order quantities, the higher customization, and the more competitive pricing, they're more likely to do that because they need the work, right? I'm not saying that as a generalized statement for every factory, but in general, they don't have the Porsches on dirt roads problem that we're starting to see in China, which is increasing prices. Also, every day is getting better. That's one thing that I love about the idea of doing business in Latin America is every day is getting better. I know a lot of people that tried to source a few years ago in Latin America, like myself, and got frustrated, said, no, this isn't for me. It doesn't work. And I see some naysayers in comments saying, oh, I tried to source in Mexico 3 years ago. It was awful. Well, look, things change fast. And every day is getting better. Every day, the investments, the technology, the production capabilities, the communication, the willingness to trade, all that stuff increases. So if you gave up on it a few years ago, go back and check it out again, because I think that opportunity is just increasing constantly. Can I talk about this real quick, Megla? Or do you want me to stop here?
Go ahead, talk about it.
I will say this, and I want to open up for questions here in just a second, but I will say this just as a teaser. We feel so strongly about Mexico and about Latin America. Myself, Amy Weiss, who was just on, and Norm, that we are actually hosting events in Mexico now. I won't go into too many details, but if you want to check it out, you can go to themexicotrip.com. We're actually doing sourcing trips with tons of training. We're actually producing that trade show I mentioned, Evo Latam, and we're doing some high-level e-commerce mastermind stuff in Cancun as well. So this April, there's a bunch of folks going out of Mexico to kind of learn together. So themexicotrip.com, you can check that out if you are so interested in. Boom. I don't know how much time I have. I try to talk fast.
Awesome. Yeah, you're just in time. So let's see if there are any questions. Guys, let us know if you have any questions for Tim over here. God's Time says, Tim, I'm here and I love your humor.
You must not have a very good sense of humor.
Very interesting topic, Tim, sourcing from Mexico. So you have been sourcing from India as well, and Mexico and China. So, I mean, let's leave China aside, but let's compare Mexico with some of the other China alternatives. Let's say, Vietnam and India. What are some differences, key differences you see sourcing from Mexico versus, let's say, India, Vietnam?
I think that one of the key differences in materials, right? I was actually, I've got a coaching program, and one of our students last night, we were talking about trying to, or maybe it was today, I can't remember, but a product that's made of wood. And they were saying, well, why can't I just make this in Mexico? And I said, you can't make it in Mexico because the wood is mango wood. There is no mango wood in Mexico. You have to make this in India, right? And they have a great Indian supplier. I think that it's hard to compare apples to mangoes, so to speak. It's hard to compare limes to mangoes, right? I should have said it's hard to compare avocados to mangoes. That's what I should have said. Just because there are so many differences. Now, on the surface, there are a lot of similarities in the level of engineering, the level of construction technicalities, and the level of maybe manufacturing scalability. Right, a lot of similarities between like your India and your Mexico, but there are just some things that India does better, in my opinion. I think that India is still very, very good with textiles. I'm not saying you can't find a good textile manufacturer in Mexico, because you absolutely can, but it's probably easier to find one in India than Mexico. Where with leather, Mexico does leather exceptionally well. India does as well. But if I'm in the U.S. and it's the same price in Mexico or India, and I can get it from Mexico in 5 days as opposed to India in a lot longer, maybe that's a Mexico thing. So there's not, Megla, a definitive answer of which one's better. It's like, as Norm likes to say, well, how long is a piece of string? Right? It all depends. It all varies. Every piece of string is a different length.
Absolutely. Guys, let us know if you have any questions for Tim about sourcing from Mexico. So Tina is just saying so many positives. Love hearing your experience, Tim. Yeah, fantastic. So, okay, awesome. Looks like there are no questions, Tim. I think you've covered everything, or people are just kind of
covered it well, or everybody's completely bored to tears and does not care what I talk about. It's probably the same.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Tim, and really appreciate you sharing all of this information, and I will see you around.
Okay. See you, Megla.
All right. Thanks, Tim. Bye. Okay, very interesting topic over there. And let's move on to our next speaker. We have Benjamin Hopwood from Gembah joining us. Hi, Benjamin. Welcome back.
Hey, Megla. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you so much for joining us again, Benjamin. So your topic is super, super important for everybody in sourcing, everybody in e-commerce, everybody importing, because you're going to be talking about how to increase profitability when you are sourcing. So that's a super important topic nowadays. I'm going to go ahead and share your slides and let's get started. So do you want to just go into presentation mode so that we can see your slides full screen?
Are they not coming through?
They're coming through, but they're not full screen. So we still see thumbnails on the left-hand side.
Huh. Interesting. Okay, just a moment. Let me see here. So should be coming through. Let me see here.
No, they're not full
Apologies,
screen
everybody,
yet.
as we get started here.
No worries. I think if you just click on that little icon on the bottom right-hand side corner
Yeah, I did
that says,
did that before. We'll see.
oh,
if it
that.
comes through.
Oh, yeah. No, it's not. Yeah, that's strange. That should work. Maybe it's opening in a different window. Why don't you share your screen again?
Yeah, I'll
So I'm
just
just
go
going
ahead
to
and share
remove
the
this.
entire screen.
Yeah, share the entire screen again. I think that'd be better.
All right. There we go.
Okay, that's better. Yes, that's full screen.
Coming through?
Yes, coming through. Perfect.
Perfect.
Let's get
All right.
started.
Well, everyone, thank you so much for your patience as we got started. As Megla said, what does it mean to supercharge a supply chain? I think for a lot of people, there's a lot of questions about this where, you know, you go and you talk to people and you get all sorts of different answers and you get ideas and you kind of, you know, it's something that's very near and dear to a lot of different people. One of the things that I've seen though over the years is that there's not very many people that do it with the discipline that's necessary to really be successful in the long term. With that said, wanted to just go ahead and introduce you guys. So I'm part of a group called Gembah. Gembah is a managed marketplace for product development and fulfillment. So we work all the way from your napkin sketch ideas all the way through fulfillment, whether that's your manufacturing side of things or your logistics, all the way to your DC. And so we deal with literally thousands of product categories for groups that are both small, all the way from just the budding entrepreneur. You've got an idea and you're sitting there thinking, how do I actually get this going? All the way through to companies that are doing tens of millions of dollars in revenues. And so excited to get to talk to you tonight about some of the things that we see in 2022 that are going to be important for really getting started. That said, one of the first things I want to mention though is that oftentimes when we look at this, we can look at supply chain. So I can come to you and I can say, all right, I'm the head of supply chain in this area. But the reality is that actually when it comes to product design and profitability and really supercharging things, you really have to look even earlier than the sourcing and the supply side. And so this is an area where Gembah also spends a lot of time. We're not going to spend as much time talking about it tonight, but what does it mean to research? What does it mean to identify the differentiator that's going to set you apart, that's going to allow you to really have high sell-through? And then after that, how do you do the design? And then finally, once you've done the design, how do you do it in a way that you can make sure that it's manufacturable, that you're not going to get stuck in between design and sourcing and then find out that either it's a design that's not going to work or it's too expensive to go to market. So these are all of the areas that Gembah really leans into with just an absolute desire to see creators' products actually get to market and be highly, highly successful. So that said, as we go into 2022, what are some of the major challenges that we see? What stops us from being really successful in what we do, especially in a time where we talked about this a little bit last night in the larger group setting, but that there's a lot of changes that have been going on, not just in 2021, but we also foresee in 2022. And when you have these larger movements that are happening, both in the supply chain, as well as in manufacturing with raw materials, with pricing, it can be very, very difficult to be a smaller organization and to really not only last, but to actually thrive. So one of the very first things that I've seen, I foresee as being a challenge for many different groups, is achieving consistent cost advantage from your manufacturers. Now, what do I mean by consistent? A lot of times we go into things and we think, oh my gosh, like my margins aren't working. I need to go like hammer my manufacturers. which ends up resulting in these knee-jerk types of reactions that we'll talk about, but oftentimes are unwelcome, and it's not conducive to a longer-term relationship. You can only hammer so many times, but if you can work through what is a consistent way of using discipline to actually achieving cost advantage, this can be a huge, huge uplift, and it can really set you apart from other groups. The second one is balancing between low-cost consolidation and single source supply chain fragility. So what do I mean by this? Sometimes you end up going into it and somebody will say, you know what, you should take all your buy and consolidate your buy. Okay, it makes a lot of sense. You can get higher raw material, competitive advantage on that side when you consolidate the buy. A lot of this is about volume. But then on the other side of this is that if you go single source, then you can actually create a significant amount of fragility within your supply chain. Now that fragility can be mirrored in the area of having multiple different supply chains if they're interlinked. In fact, some of you may be familiar with complexity theory, where again, you have to be smart about what you're doing. So what does it look like to actually balance this out? And then the third one is navigating the uncertainty around transportation and raw material availability. So again, I think everybody knows that as we go into 2022, we're continuing to see shock around this area of both raw materials. So for instance, if you're going to a new market, we just got to hear a great talk on the Mexico market. A lot of great things that are going on in that area. But you may find that your raw materials are being supplied from a different area. So if, the example was mango wood just now, if you're actually taking your mango wood and you are dependent on mango wood and you're bringing that into Mexico, you just have to understand that that is going to be a continuing issue for you in your supply chain until you end up changing your raw materials. And then if you have shock that goes through the system, especially in the area of logistics, if we see additional shock, this ends up causing a lot of different problems. So here's a checklist for us to begin thinking about as we move towards this. First one, get informed. We're going to be talking about this. What does it mean to dig into details, to really get deep into your product? And we'll talk about a number of tools that you can begin to use as you do this. But it also warrants a lot of inspection on who your team is. Who is the group that's really working on your behalf? If you find yourself as a lone player within this field, this can be a not just a lonely position, but it can also be a dangerous position. Then the third one is setting up a cadence. What does it mean to have consistency around what you do? How can you become somewhat predictable with your suppliers and your supply chain such that you can achieve a higher level of rigor and discipline that's necessary in order to really start to gain traction in some areas? And then the final one is we'll talk a little bit about reestablishing communication. For many different groups, people know that they've not been able to go in country. If you've been supplied out of East Asia, as an example, or India, these have been really big issues because for many of you, if you've been supplying or receiving your supply from these areas, you may not have been there for the past 2 years. It's very, very probable. But not just that, but what does this look like in a new distributed world? What are some of the solutions for this? So we'll talk about these 4 different areas as we go forward today. Again, happy to take some questions as we go into the end of it. I'll try and leave a little bit of time. So the first one, getting informed, knowing your business. There was a great piece of advice that was given last night. One of the first ones is that if you are in e-commerce, you really need to look at what your margins are, okay? A lot of the things that we're gonna talk about tonight are about talking about changing it, getting to a place to where you can get to a tipping point with regards to your supply chain, just in very, very practical ways. But if you are significantly off in your margins, if that's the case for you as a seller, this is going to be a very, very difficult and painful year as you continue to go through it. So one of the very first things is establishing where are you now, having people that are within your life that you can go to that can help you to ask some of those hard questions to say, does this truly make sense? What you were doing prior to this and what you're doing today, does something need to change? Understanding very clearly with definition, where do you want to be? And understanding what your overall capability and capacity for making those changes are. This is an important thing to take a step back sometimes to actually make out a plan and then to revisit that plan. In some organizations I've been in, we look at that on a quarterly basis. I think it's a great rule of thumb to say, what was the plan that we set up? No plan survives contact. And then moving into the next piece, which is where are we at today? What do we need to do in order to make sure that we're arriving at the right place? There's a lot of things that are great tools for this, whether you're talking about OKRs, you're talking about quarterly business reports, these types of things that can then help you to make some of these decisions. Second one that I have here is that you need to know your business in terms of who's around you, who's in the competition. So in this case, we have Honhai Precision. You guys may be familiar with this, those of you that are in the electronics realm. So this is Foxconn. There are tools out there, and in this case, we have Panjiva, that can help you to understand who are your suppliers, who are your suppliers' customers, and who are your suppliers' suppliers. Okay, there are different options for you to find this out, to understand who is your competition, where are they selling out of, who are they buying from, and who's in the overall market together. But getting really informed, digging into this especially as you look at new products, and not just simply assuming that you're going to be able to easily get into something. Oftentimes will equip you in a way that you can get started to look at, okay, here's where the opportunities lie. Here's who the market players are, and then identifying potentially with intuition, what are some of the challenges that might be going on? So as an example, you might be in a product where some of the largest manufacturers or some of the best manufacturers may already have existing agreements with other groups in your region. Okay, so maybe you're selling into North America, maybe you're selling into India, maybe it's into East Africa, wherever it is, understanding who they're in relationship with, and then knowing how will this affect your business as you grow. The second one is also understanding whether your competitors are now also sourcing from the same group. This is really, really critical, because if you have another group, they may have just an initial tentacle that's coming into your area. But if they're a large group with significant amounts of cash and resources, this could be a challenge. And so you want to have early warning as you go into it. Second part of this, in terms of getting informed, would be a lot around raw material. I know that a lot of discussion has happened around this. And one of the things that I would really encourage you to do is to sit down with all of your SKUs and sit down and think through, what are the top 3 raw materials that are moving your product's price? Oftentimes, the easiest way to look at this is to say, well, what's the largest material that's going into my product? But interestingly, that may not always be what builds up your product price. You may have smaller components, whether they're electronics or otherwise, that are actually doing a disproportionate amount of movement in your raw material pricing that works into your bill of material. But if you don't know what those top 3 are, kind of like the poker table, if you look around and you can't find the sucker, that sucker may be you. And so I would just say you need to really start to think through, what is it? Write it down. Get an idea. Even if you're not fully sure, you can at least start there, and you can start to talk with your manufacturers about what's really going on here. Now, I've got two different views here. So as an example, you may find that you have aluminum may have an outsized impact on your product's price. Now, what will oftentimes happen with the manufacturers is you'll kind of be like going along and the product price, and then suddenly, boom, you get hit with this like 30% increase in aluminum pricing. And somebody will hold up a chart in front of you, and they'll say, well, you see, like, this is what's been going on. Oftentimes the behavior that I see in manufacturers is that they kind of have these thresholds where it's like they end up eating a certain amount of cost, and then suddenly it's like it's stair steps on you in terms of with your pricing, and it can come at the worst times. And so having insight into what's going on both within a regional side, so we have the S&P Global Platts here, that can help you to understand, hey, look, there are differences in aluminum regionally. And so this may give you some insight as to which regions you want to be in. Now, that's not always the case. Just because aluminum is made in Japan, as an example, doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to result in the best place to produce is Japan. However, if people are importing Japanese steel or aluminum, this should have an impact in terms of what you're looking at. But the second one, and I've got this in dingjia.com, is that having an understanding of where your spot market price is and revisiting it. Maybe you don't have to do it weekly, but understanding at least on a monthly basis and certainly on a quarterly basis, you want to know what's going on. Now, the reason for this, and we'll talk about this as a strategy moving forward, is that there's a couple different things that we can see here. One is that you can begin to determine how seasonality affects your raw material pricing. So like as an example, you might be shown in the Shanghai aluminum ingot market from your manufacturer, well, look at this. Do you see like the pricing is starting to go up? What's interesting though is that if you understand not just what the general ingot price is that's affecting it, and yes, this is a driver, you can also begin to look for very specific products that are being made out of this. So like for instance, in the area of aluminum rods. Now, one of the things that we can see here is that you may find that there are trends of seasonality that start to happen here. And when you can look over multiple years and you see seasonality affecting it, then this starts to give you that awareness. If I buy and if my manufacturer is buying at the right time, it's potential that I could save significant amounts of money on my overall product if I buy at the right time. So there's different levers and movement pieces that you can do. But if you're unaware of what's going on, your manufacturer may be aware, but they may not necessarily tell you, or it may not occur to them to talk to you about it. But overall, what you want to do is you want to try and find win-win risk buy opportunities, especially when it comes to raw material. Because ultimately, if you end up hurting your manufacturer for a significant amount of time, you're going to get all sorts of other issues that are going to start to happen, right? And so like hopefully you're in business and your desire is to really benefit not just yourself, but a larger group of people, both your customers as well as your supply chain, such that everyone can flourish. That said, that doesn't mean that you have to be a pushover. Going in informed into conversations and doing it with consistency will allow you to actually come across it to your manufacturer as like, oh yeah, we kind of had that discussion. That person, they actually kind of know what they're talking about. And so maybe we can look into it. Maybe we can try and find a new opportunity for partnership together. Now, another major area that I would encourage you as you think about supercharging your supply chain over the coming year is really doing a team evaluation. As I mentioned, it can be lonely, not just at the top, but if you're all alone. But understanding who are the stakeholders that are involved. Okay, I'm talking about your manufacturers. I'm talking about your manufacturer's sub-suppliers. I'm talking about who your quality control group is. I'm talking about the person that's actually looking into like your overall project status. When you start thinking about like, how do we achieve cost down types of opportunities, who is it who's really going to be your advocate in this? But a couple different things here. So 3 different groups that you can think of. First one is your QC inspector group. Now, we ended up having, again, last night, some great people on the call. Having a group that you can trust with your quality control is critical, because quality control inspection is a common point of failure and corruption. Okay, I was in China for over 15 years, and it was just a known area that payment, the brown paper bag of money that can go to people, like just to look the other way. That's not to like try and create this idea that corruption is specific to a certain area. It's to say that this is an area wherever you are in the world that can be a major challenge point. And so if you look at this can be a lucrative place for quality control departments. And so making sure that you're partnered with the right group is so important. And if you can eliminate that, you may end up finding out that there's significant margins to be found in your product just because of this, where, for instance, if your manufacturer doesn't have to pay out that significant bribe to somebody else, then they can actually lower price. And if you actually achieve higher quality levels, then they don't have to raise the price because they have so much failure that's going on. So the quality control inspector is huge. Second one, an operations project manager or program manager versus a customer rep. For some of you, if you've ever had challenges legally, you can find a lawyer who can represent you on your behalf. Sometimes though, if you end up going just with the customer rep, they may be nice, they may be pretty, they may have been chosen for all sorts of reasons, but they may not necessarily be your friend, in the same way that if you end up getting a state-appointed legal counsel, public defender, that may not be the top of the top in terms of helping you to get to where you want to go if you have challenges. And so one of the things to think about is like, who does the communication and who really monitors performance on a monthly basis, on a weekly basis, and by golly, certainly on a quarterly basis, because you're going to want to talk about what does quality up and cost down initiatives look like. Not just what new product are you going to be bringing into it, but how do you achieve that cadence, that making sure that the discussion is happening to say, did we hit the quality targets? If we hit the quality targets, that's great, because now you have better sell-through, but also you have less waste on the manufacturer side. If they're having less waste on their side, then that means that there's cost down opportunities throughout. The final one is middlemen. And again, I think a lot of us are aware of this, but really asking the question of, if you had somebody set up your supply chain, are they offering consistent value to you moving forward? Okay. Now, again, there may be groups that have done that, and they're not operating as much as middlemen as they are as part of your team. But if you have groups that are actively blocking you, are actively stopping communication, this can be a major, major challenge. And so doing a team evaluation can have a lot of dividends for you. Next one, tools of the trade. Okay, some of the things, one of the areas that you may or may not be familiar with is just a vendor scorecard or a supplier scorecard. Now you might say, yeah, I've seen that, or maybe it might be in like an ERP system or other things. And that might be kind of the procurement group's job. But here's what you can do. Using a vendor scorecard where you're looking at what is your on-time delivery, what is your and/or shipment, what is your overall setup in terms of with quality, and then overall, what is your price? If you have multiple manufacturers, put them in competition with each other. Let them know. It's not necessarily a secret who you're buying from, okay? Especially if you're starting to get a little bit larger. These are all opportunities that will allow you to begin to do that, maybe even on a monthly basis. And you tell the group, whoever's on the lowest on the supplier scorecard, you're getting 30% less orders, and whoever's on the top, they'll get 30% more orders. This is a natural way of working the type of your vendors in terms of just getting it a positive feedback loop, okay? To where they start to know that, like, hey, if they can do this, then this will be beneficial to them. And you'll find that the worst suppliers will start to fall behind on price and other things. And oftentimes they'll just not be able to catch up. And so you'll be able to find a new group who can fill that slot. But this is one that, if you use discipline with it, can have huge effects on overall price over a period of time. Another one, this is a Pareto chart that's used in quality control. Question, what are your top 3 quality defects that go on? Again, you may say, I just want good product that comes out. But if you understand what some of those issues are, and you have somebody who's working to eliminate those issues at your manufacturer, that can have major dividends in a longer term relationship for you. And even if it's not your team that's doing it, then make sure that your manufacturer is. Final one is this cadence. As we look at this, I'm sorry, we have 2 more. Next one is cadence. And so really starting to discipline the expectations around your manufacturing. This is super, super important, because oftentimes, as I mentioned before, you can have a situation where you kind of have this knee-jerk reaction, right? We've all had that emotional reaction to something where we're just like, what? This is a big, big deal. But making sure that you have discipline with the way that you communicate with your suppliers. If you've had that over weeks and months and even years, what you'll find is that you can avoid the knee-jerk reaction. You can bring the data to the manufacturer, and you can determine what is actually a reasonable way that you can both work together towards success longer term. So one question, if you're using a supplier scorecard, when will it be released? Is it released on a monthly basis? Is it released on a quarterly basis? And again, you may say, Benjamin, this is something that that's only what big organizations do. But you know what? Part of sometimes being able to achieve this longer term performance is about using best in practice tools. You don't have to make it super complicated. You can make it simple. Find different organizations and or tools that allow you to do that. Second, who and what information will be released. So understanding, having that consistent. In some cases, you may want to just send it to a single group. In some cases, you may want to have them all where it's sent out to where they know, you may not put them all in the same email, but they know who you're working with. And so they're kind of like, oh man, they're working with so-and-so. Now you have to be careful about that. But again, having that clear and consistent communication oftentimes will result in you being able to simply say, this group's doing better. What are you guys going to do this year to actually really bring up the competition? And having competition between two groups oftentimes is what leads to better outcomes in this area. Next, what benefits and penalties will result immediately? Okay, there's kind of that the sword of Damocles that's going to hang over the head of your logistics group or over your supplier, where we're just going to cut you. But the reality of it is that having the opportunity to talk with groups over a period of time will allow you to say, hey, this is just the simple thing. If this happens, then our orders go down. And if this happens, our orders go up. And you'll start to see that people will respond to those carrots and sticks. And then finally, what's the consequence for egregious or consistent failure? Okay, relationship is great, but that said, is that if you're seeing consistent failure on it, there are lots of groups that are out there vying, and it may be worth your while to go ahead and start to look at new avenues. But again, don't let the knee-jerk reaction be the one that sends you into failure. Final one, communication. At Gembah, we talk about this a lot, is how do you really lean in? What you see here is what's called a Gembah circle. Some of you may be familiar with the Gembah walk if you're in lean manufacturing. But in here, you see this particular person, and you see all of these footprints that represent all of the different aspects of the stakeholders that are necessary on the manufacturing floor for success. The question is who's in your Gembah circle, okay? And that's not Gembah, our company, that's Gembah without the H. But that who is in your Gembah circle? Are they represented? Are they talking together? Are they communicating on your behalf? Or is it all kind of coming in piecemeal? Second one, leaning into conflict and moving towards resolution. Okay, yes, for some of us, conflict is just the way of life, and we just constantly are in conflict. That's not necessarily what I'm talking about. But the ability to be able to talk with a group oftentimes comes from a consistency in communication that you can go ahead and raise the issue. We can measure the issue, and then ultimately we can see if we're getting to resolution on the issue. And for groups that can make that sort of connection with people overall, it ends up forging really lasting bonds that will be really, really profitable for you moving forward. Next one is establishing a reputation for win-win relationships. Okay, for some of us, we're just going in for the quick win and then we're out. That may be what you need to do. But from a supply chain standpoint, you have to be very, very careful about that. That said, if you, as I mentioned at the very beginning, if you are in a seriously losing position, then you really need to make the decision to go ahead and get out. If you're in a bad relationship, get out. But that said, make sure that you're really trying to find the win-wins with groups. And overall, you'll start to gain a reputation with your manufacturer as being a reasonable person, but also a really hard negotiator. That person, they continually to send that group to us, and we know that it is, but you know what? They also help us on the other side. And so it's good business, and good business will last for longer periods of time. The final one is bridging instead of terminating. What I would say here is again, take it with a grain of salt. You need to know what you need to do. If you need to pivot, and you need to pivot quickly as a small organization, you may need to do that quickly. But that said, if you're needing to bridge to, for instance, a new region or a new manufacturer, think through what that managed change is going to look like. Make your plan, begin to talk with your suppliers about it, and then start to just move with discipline. Set up your dates, execute on the dates that you've set up. Obviously, no plan fully survives contact, but that said, is that consistency will allow everyone within your supply chain to start getting lined up for success longer term. So as we think about 2022, my hope for you is that, and I realize this is a short discussion, hopefully we'll have some question and answers that we can go into in greater detail, but that you'll change these challenges into advantages, so that you'll find that at the end of 2022, you'll write in your diary or your notebook or in your board report, you'll say that we achieved consistent cost advantage from our manufacturers. It was consistent over a period of time, that you balance your low cost consolidation, and that you achieve supply chain redundancy. Okay, what does that look like? Maybe it means dual sourcing. Maybe it means like talking to your manufacturer about getting different sub-suppliers. There's a number of different solutions here. And finally, that you've improved certainty around transportation and around raw material. You know what's going to happen. You know where this is leading to. It's not catching you off guard. You're not just getting an email from somebody that says, oh, raw material prices are up. But that said, that you've had the discussions, you know what's coming ahead of you, and you've hopefully already made the decisions necessary for success. So I'll go ahead and stop here. We can go ahead and have a question and answer period. We'd be happy to talk to you guys a little bit more about this. Again, very, very open to discussing this. If there's been an area that I've missed that you'd love to talk about, let's discuss it. We've got time.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, Benjamin. And really a lot of information over there. So much to unpack. Let's see if we've got any questions. So guys, if you have any questions for Benjamin, type them in the comments. And I see one question from Paul. Is there any software for supplier scorecards?
Absolutely. Yeah. So what I'd say is that there is software. There's a number of different groups that you can go with that offer solutions in this area. A lot of times you'll find it around, for instance, PO management. That said, I would say one thing to note is that if you have a simple supply chain, don't be afraid to just start with Excel. Like, you can download off of the internet a lot of different supplier scorecards. Like, this is an Excel thing. You can find templates everywhere, and just simplify it. Because a lot of the scorecards, each scorecard is going to be a bit different. And especially if you end up getting a group that has like a really like fancy type thing, it may not fit your particular organization. So like, as again, I mentioned before, okay, what does on-time shipment look like? It may not just be on-time delivery, but on-time shipment, especially if you're looking overseas. Another one would be like, what did cost look like? Okay, what was the overall cost piece of it? And then the third one was, what were the qualities, like quality issues, both like when you did this like on site, if you end up doing quality checks with your manufacturer. And again, that's a huge area where you can achieve cost down. But then longer term, like, what is your return rate from your store looking like? And so each of you will have a little bit different preference on that. Maybe cost is not as important to you, but on-time shipment today, right now, is, because if you're late and the logistics ends up getting backed up, you're out of stock right now. So like that on-time delivery rate may be a bigger issue. Maybe it's quality. But again, these are areas that you can go ahead and you can set yourself. That's just a very simple way of starting it. But longer term, you can absolutely, there's lots of software options, a lot of ERP systems once you start getting into that side of it as a larger business are also out there. But again, start with the simple low-hanging fruit first. Right.
That's great advice. So Benjamin, do you also have any tips on how to negotiate with suppliers? Because, of course, raw material costs are going up, and then there's also pressure with all of the logistics costs that have been going up. So do you have any tips or suggestions on how to negotiate and maybe push back if the supplier is asking for a price increase, or maybe get them to offer you a lower quote, for example?
Yeah, so as an example, if you went back to my slide 7 there, I was looking at aluminum prices. And one of the things that happened was over last year, or actually this is over the last 3 months, we saw a consistent rise in aluminum prices. They ended up peaking in the February time period. Now the problem is that sometimes your manufacturer will end up just like with for those of you who have like bought and traded stocks or other things, you end up finding out that like people end up buying and selling at the lows and the highs, right? So sometimes your manufacturer will end up being at the maximum pain point where suddenly you end up getting a spike in cost in the area of like say aluminum. Maybe you're doing tents, and so you've got extruded aluminum tubing. And so suddenly they come to you and they say, look, we end up having this cost increase that's gone on. Now the question is, it's like, maybe you've not talked about price. It's like one of those areas like let's not discuss this, because if we discuss it, it's only going to go one way. But the reality of it was that over the past month, those costs have come down. Now, again, these are spot market prices. And so there's a certain amount of lag time that can go into it, whether you're dealing with the raw material or you're dealing with like, say, a group that's doing aluminum extruded tubing, these types of things. But this is where having that discussion with your manufacturer to say, let's look at from a pricing standpoint, like, because they may just leave it at that high price. And as that price has come down, you can have the discussion with them. Another one that you can discuss with them in terms of raw material side of it is going to be like, for instance, like if you're looking at your plastics as an example, are there options that you can, maybe you ended up having something that was in your product that was an important piece, or maybe not even an important piece for your product, but you absolutely need to achieve a certain cost target. And so you can drop a piece of functionality with it and or quality. And so like this is the area where then you can talk about raw materials and you can say, well, what would it take in order to hit this cost target? In other words, what would we need to change about the product? What would be the risks that are around this? That's another one that you can have as a discussion around this with the manufacturer. But the third and probably most important one, and again, I realize that for some of you, this may feel like cold comfort to you, or just something that feels like it's too far out in the front. It's kind of like you get to your New Year's resolution, you get to your next year and you tell yourself, I'm going to get in shape. And you end up going to the gym, you sign up for the gym membership, but by the first month, maybe by the second month, you've stopped running, right? You've stopped doing what you need to do to actually get in shape. And the problem is that then later in the year, your doctor comes and talks to you and says like, hey, this is a real issue. Like you need to change your lifestyle. And you think, oh, knee-jerk reaction, right? I need to do something big. For those who can exercise consistent discipline, especially with negotiation, when you're talking to different groups, we set a goal. Our goal is that we will achieve 5% cost down no matter what by the end of the year. Set up your initiatives, have your manufacturer come back and tell you how they're going to accomplish it. Have your OPM work with you on a quarterly basis. What have we done? Okay, maybe it wasn't in the raw material, but maybe it was in the quality side. We improved quality by 7%. And by doing that, we reduced wastage. And because we reduced wastage, we were able to pass along these savings to you. That's the sort of negotiation, that's the consistent negotiation, that's not just, staring at people, pounding the table and saying, I'm going to leave. It's the type of negotiation where you get into the mind of your manufacturer and you help them to see that, yes, you will achieve success together. And then the final part is just that you can find different groups to help you in this area.
That's great advice. I always believe that a win-win situation is just so important for you and your supplier. Okay, we've got a few other questions. So first of all, God's Time is saying, Mr. Ben, your info is quite informative and an eye-opener. Thanks. Keep up the good work.
Absolutely.
Okay, so shipping costs have increased tremendously during this pandemic. Any idea when it will cool down? Isn't that the $1 million question?
Well, yeah, I mean, so you have different groups that are saying different things right now. I think that the key thing, we ended up doing a webinar on this last year around the September timeframe, I believe. And one of the things that I talk to people about is that you may not know necessarily in 6 months ultimately like where the price is going to be, but you as an organization can make decisions about what's necessary if those prices stay the same, they go up by 10%, or they come down by say 30%. And starting to begin to know kind of like what are the milestones that different groups are looking for. So one, as an example, like just got out of a conversation with stuff that's going on for groups that are coming from areas that are in Central Asia right now, and we're seeing just longer travel times that are going on with shipping that's happening right now. Now, the interesting part about this is you could say, oh no, like this is a regional issue, but the reality of it is that there are certain big pieces that are happening in the world today. One of those is that the Global Maritime Authority is now enforcing, or they're going to begin enforcing, carbon emissions on the shipping lanes. And so because of this, in order to meet those goals for carbon emissions, many shipping lines will likely, the only way that they'll be able to solve this, because they don't have the new ships online yet, is that they'll have to slow down their ships. This is a major issue. So like as an example, if we start to go into summer and we're not seeing significant improvement in the overall supply chain, then this may end up going, and we'll see this ripple again right through to the fall and then going through it. The second part of it though, is that understanding that sometimes like logistics can be like the anaconda that ate the deer. If you've ever seen that on the Nature Channel, right? So you end up getting the big jaw and then you have this like deer that's just rolling through it. Is that sometimes you'll get excited. You'll say, the bottleneck is done. But the reality is that it's just rolling through that snake. So understanding where that's at will be really, really helpful. So again, part of it I would say is that, and then maybe a final comment is that generally speaking, even throughout this, we found solutions. Okay, but you need to understand what your balance point is between on-time shipments and between cost. Now, that's not always the case where you end up winning on it. In some cases, we've seen things that affect clients in any case, but a lot of times, like making sure you're not at the very bottom and that you're not at the very top of the pile is going to be important going throughout the year, so that you can be nimble and you can have maybe 2 or 3 groups that are going to be competing with each other. Again, having a supplier scorecard or a vendor scorecard. Did you deliver it on time? What was your pricing? These types of things you can negotiate.
Perfect. So let's take one last question from Paul. How is it best to balance 2 suppliers supplying a product? Is it best to allocate them to service a different region?
I think that oftentimes you'll want to think about channels is one of the big areas that you want to think about. So regions might be the right way of doing it. Certainly if you're right sourcing, like right shoring your manufacturing. So if you find that you have certain product that's going to Europe versus other product that's going to East Asia versus other product that's going to North America, like, yes, you definitely want to right shore your manufacturing if at all possible, simply because of what we talked about with the logistics. But the other piece of it is looking at channeling. Like, what are your channels? So if you have this channel and you have a major issue that happens in it, that you know pretty much where that's coming from on your supplier base, and you can have very clear discussions with your manufacturers about this. But the other one that I would say is just simply speaking is to say, hey, more information and competition between 2 different groups generally is better than less competition. I know that there's like kind of this feeling that like maybe the supplier is going to become less interested in it if they know that they're in competition with each other. But the reality of it is that if they really fear competition, they may be a very short-term solution for you right now, because you want the group that's going to be just like you, consistently striving to achieve better performance, both on their quality and on their pricing, on their on-time delivery, and they shouldn't fear it. I'll just end with this one story. So for some of you, you may know about lean engineering. This ended up coming out of Toyota, which was originally based on Ford and other things. But one of the things that they said is that we don't fear to have our competitors, so GM and Ford, to tour their plants. That used to like not be a thing. And the reason why they said it was because the other competition does not have the will to succeed against us. Now, again, you might say that that's people being kind of very overly confident, but they ended up performing over a long period of time. And I think that if you can find suppliers that do that for you as well, organizations that can build teams around you in doing that, that you'll not only just be successful with your current product, but you'll learn how to commercialize your process. And in doing that, you'll find significant success.
Wow, that is such a beautiful quote right there. They don't have the will to succeed as us. So, thank you so much, Benjamin, for your time today. And that was a lot of good information. I'm sure our audiences found a lot of value in it. And everybody watching, Gembah has an exclusive free offer for Global Sources Summit attendees. If you do want to get a consultation, check out this link bit.ly/Gembah-consult and talk to them, and they might be able to bring your idea to life, create it into a real product. So Benjamin, thank you so much for your time again. And thank you to Gembah for partnering with Global Sources Virtual Summit. And I'll see you around.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, everyone.
Bye. Okay, so now I'm going to invite Karen back on stage. Hello, Karen.
Hi.
Welcome back.
Hi, Megla. That was a lot of information in less than 2 hours.
That is, oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Yeah, I've been taking notes as well. I mean, especially Benjamin's presentation was absolutely awesome. So many tips and advice on how to deal with suppliers. Yeah, priceless.
Yes, absolutely.
Cool.
Okay.
So are your suppliers ready?
Yep, they are all here. And then
All right.
I
let's
think we
go.
should start. Let's start with Korea first. Hi, Mohammed.
Hi, how are you?
Great. How are you?
Good, thank you, thank you.
Thank you. And we also have Megla here with us.
Hi, Mohammed. How are you?
I'm good, thank you so much. I'm good.
Okay.
Cool.
So you can you have some air purifier for us, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So okay, you can have a quick introduction about your company and then some introduction about your products. Leave some time for questions. Okay, so stay within 5 minutes.
Okay, sure, no problem. Can I start?
Yeah, start now.
Okay, our company name is Pixelro. So we are spin-off company from Samsung Electronics, C-Lab, and we produce innovative products. And I'm going to introduce one of our new and innovative products. This one is like air purifier, and the unique thing about air purifier is that we have this ion generator, which is inside our product. So this ion generator, we call it Zeus ion generator, positive and negative plasma base. So what it does is this air purifier works with HEPA filter too. So HEPA filter plus this Zeus. Yeah, I think. Okay, yeah. This Zeus is inside the air purifier. So like this, it goes inside. And what it
Mohammed,
does,
can you bring it? Can you bring it in front of the camera, please? We couldn't see
yeah,
it.
sure.
Yeah, and I suggest to not have the screen behind because the reflection is
Yeah, we can't
making
see it. I
hard
think you
to-
should just turn off the screen behind you.
Yeah,
'Cause we
it's like
can't
two
see.
pieces. One is the bottom side, which is HEPA filter inside, and one is the head, and ion generator goes here inside. So it's antibacterial and virus killer as well, and also it cleans the air. It's an air purifier, of course, and for the HEPA filter also, you can just simply use HEPA filter like this, and then put it inside. Works like this. And here also the bottoms, like the speed, turn on and off, the switching part, which goes like 40 degree, and ion generator on and off button, plus this is the timer for getting off, like after 2 hours, 4 hours, and 8 hours. So, but the main product is this one, which you can not only use it in air purifier, you can use it in also other products. For example, we use it in hand dryer because it's a virus killer. So you can put it in the hand dryer. We are going to use it in also different type of products, but mainly right now we just use it in the air purifier. So let me, yeah. So this is the process of how it works. I hope it's clear to you. Can you see it? Okay. Yeah. This is the process
No.
of the
It's not very clear, Mohammed. It's okay.
Air processing, HEPA filter, Zeus ion generator, and this is the product. So airflow is like this. So, and also the performances, the authorization test, and also some other tests like antivirus performance. You can see here. So, and I don't know how much time I have left.
Almost time.
Okay, almost time. Okay, and as you mentioned, like if there is any question, I can answer.
Yeah, because we can't see much of your screen because of the reflection. So for those that have questions or interested in the air purifier, please visit Pixelrow's website on globalsources.com, pixelrow.co. Mohammed will be able to answer your questions there.
Yes, of course. Yeah, all the questions I will check.
Okay, good. So guess like we don't have any questions at the moment. So thank you very much, Mohammed.
No problem.
See you again later.
Yeah. See you. See you again.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Mohammed.
Okay. Well, it's unfortunate that he had a little bit issue with the filter and the lighting. But okay, let's move on to our next presenter, next supplier from sister company.
Hi.
Hi, Jean.
Hi, Karen.
Hi. We have Megla here with us as well.
Hi.
Okay, so you have some handbags and accessories to show us. Is that right?
Yes. So
okay, so please give us a quick introduction about your company and then your product.
Okay. Hello, everyone. This is Jean. Welcome to our showroom in Taipei. Our company sisters companies start businesses since year 2000. Our specialized item is all kinds of bag. Today, I would like to show you some of our signature and popular items. Here is one kind of a transparent. Okay, one more. Our company start business since year 2000. Most of our customers are from fashion business. So we always can get the top fashion guideline and the trendy information, trending concept from the market. Also, we're developing our own collection every month. So when you contact us, we will show you monthly product a lot. Today, I would like to show you some trick item we worked before. First one is this transparent cosmetic bag. This is a Gossett cosmetic bag. This is what we work for Ted Baker. And customer give us a layer flower design, and we help to arrange several layout for option. Finally, we carry out this beautiful pouch. Another one is we work for Victoria's Secret. You can see this is the same shape cosmetic bag, just change different printing, make this bag different from Ted Baker. And except, of course, you can give us your artwork. We can help you to carry out your bespoke, your private brand cosmetic bag. Also, you can choose from our ready pattern, like this cactus pattern. This is one of our ready pattern. Another one is this rigid vanity. This is what we work for Harrods. This kind shape vanity is quite popular, and we can adjust the size according to your request. Following, if you want the life with much more fun, we can put some satin inside the transparent pouch. You can choose different color, different shape, different volume into each pouch to make the pouch different. Also, you can put your slogan, logo printing in front side or with a handle to make the pouch different to others. And this is we work for MAC Cosmetic. We put the queen and some liquid inside, make the pouch in another way. Just you can imagine you like a fish working in ocean. Because right now many people working from home, they also need an eye gel mask. Eye gel mask is quite popular recently. We put the glitter inside the eye gel mask. Yeah, to make the eye gel mask different from normal style. Also, we put the dry flower in eye gel mask. This is what we work for the fun. This is a customer gift for their VIP. Another one, we put the dry flower into the couch bag. So this is to show you we use the same element. This is an example to show you we use the same element in different finish. This is what we work. Yeah. Following, I would like to show you how we make the bag with detail to be different. First one is this canvas pouch. This is very normal freight pouch, but we use the hologram color paper to transfer printing on black canvas, and we use the rainbow zipper on the top, make the pouch look very gorgeous. And also we can work a patchwork. Like this one, we use gilt patch stitching on PU and do some color arrangement. Make this pouch look very luxury. Also, we can work like this way, offset printing with customer puller, customer pattern lining, make the pouch unique from others. Another one is about this. This is we call it the puff logo finish. We use spatial molding to make this puff logo on bag, on product. Also, we help customer to stitch in their private label inside. This job is quite easy. Our MOQ only requires 300 pieces. You can work like this or like this.
Yes.
Yeah.
We actually have a couple of questions for you, but I guess you just answered them all in your presentation. Amazion just asked, can you customize on design? So I guess you can, right? Because you just showed your sample from MAC and the other labels. And also another question: what's your MOQ for this bag from Rash?
For stitching item, our MOQ is 300 pieces per color. But for eye gel mask, this heat sealing item, our MOQ is 1,000 pieces. Different technique, we have a different MOQ request. Yeah.
Okay. So one more question. Do you create see-through pouches that are sealed from water penetration? So are your bags waterproof, the plastic ones?
Yes, because depends on material. Just like this one, this is PVC or TPU material. The surface is waterproof. If you have a strict request, we can also replace the waterproof zipper on the top to make the whole bag really waterproof. Yeah.
Nice. Nice. I see many people are interested in your product. So please do make your request to Jean on globalsources.com, sisters.co, and she'll be happy to answer your questions there. Yeah, and that is her QR code as well.
Yes.
So thank you very much.
Today. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Okay, I see that drew a lot of attention.
I know. I really liked those eye patches, not eye patches, but eye
Yeah.
gel. Yeah, those with flowers inside. Those really cute.
Because our eyes get so tiring from staring at the monitor, and especially when during live streaming, all those lights here. I was like, oh, I need one of those now. Okay, next up, we have Tina from WinStars, and she is doing adapters for computer. Hi, Tina.
Hello. Hello,
Hi,
How are
Magda.
you?
Hello, Karen. Yeah, hi.
Okay.
So I will have a few pages of the PPT presentation. Then I go to the exhibition room and we have the real products. Okay.
Okay, sure. Please keep it short. Make sure to keep it short. Okay.
Thank you.
Start.
Thank you. So we are WinStar's factory, and we design and produce 3 different kinds of product lines. The first one is we are a Wi-Fi company. We do a lot of Wi-Fi networking products, including the mesh, the Wi-Fi, the repeaters, the adapters, everything you can imagine when you want to use the Wi-Fi. You see, you have to use the Wi-Fi for the phone, for the pad, for the laptop to search to search the internet. So this is a daily necessity. Networking devices for you. And the next product is USB docking stations and hubs. Can you slide? Yeah, these kind of products are actually the perfect partner for laptops and PC accessories. When you have the very thin notebook and they have very limited ports, that will really limit your work efficiency, and you need these products to extend to more ports, to the additional monitors, and you can put in the keyboards and the mouses through this docking station. It's the perfect thing for you to improve the work efficiency. And we have a third product line is for the chargers. The chargers that to charge your phone, to charge your laptop, and especially those ones for the PD charger. So I'm now going to the exhibition room to show you the real products. So this is our exhibition room, along with our work area. So we are IT company, and we do all the hardcore products here. Right here, you can see. I don't see. Oh, okay,
yes,
okay. Right here, you can. Yeah, great. This product, I have to say, this is the world's best spec docking stations in this area. So if the customer sells a laptop, this is the perfect partner. And you can have you can see there's so many ports here on this docking station, and they can have less ports. We have different models and different solutions, so they can choose their own compatibility. And this is the best selling items in the whole 3C business world. So I show you other ones. For example, this one. So the top one, this one has less ports. This one has much more ports, and we have even the smaller ones I show you. For example, this one, they're all the hubs. So the hubs and docks, they're of the same accessories, and always it's the best way to improve the efficiency, because you can have much more devices connected to the laptop, and you can work on more things at the same time. Let's go to the Wi-Fi area. Hello, I'm back here. So we have actually, this is our another line of Wi-Fi products. Everybody needs a Wi-Fi like every day. If you want to use the internet, Wi-Fi is necessary. So come to us. The thing I want to introduce is a high technology product. It's called a mesh. You see, you have the internet ports here. So it's definitely the router, and you can use it with different units together. You use different units together and they form the mesh network. So when you leave a large area you have a large living area in the space, you need to have 2 units together. So you have the seamless Wi-Fi. Whenever you go at your house, you can have the Wi-Fi. There are no dead corners at all. So this is the best product actually sold. And oh, yeah. If you already 还有一个产品. And also we have the standalone. We also have the standalone routers. So this is the Wi-Fi routers. These are the hardcore products here. If you have, if you are living alone, and for example, you have a limited living room in the living space, you actually can have just one product. That's quite okay. This is the traditional router, and here, this is the wall plug. You see, you can directly plug in the wall plug, and you will. This is the Wi-Fi magnifier amplifier. So actually, you can extend the Wi-Fi with this product to a longer range. So all the products here, including the USB docking and the Wi-Fi products, we improve the work and the efficiency at home and at work.
Very nice product, and I like the mesh, the bridge for Wi-Fi as well. That's very useful. We have a question for you, Tina.
Yes,
from Rash. What's the coverage area for the Wi-Fi mesh?
For the Wi-Fi mesh per unit, for example, this one is 1,500 square feet.
Okay.
So that's actually a big wide area because there are walls, there are furniture, different things to block the signal. So this is in a very good environment. You can reach this wide area. But when you have a bigger house and when you have a lot of things that might block the signal, we would advise you to use like 2 units or maybe more, 3 units like this. So it's like a set. It's the mesh technology.
Okay. One more question. Where's
Yes,
your
please.
factory located?
We are located in Shenzhen Longhua district, and we have over 700 people.
Okay, very good. For those who are interested in Tina's products, please visit globalsources.com, winstars.co, and I'm sure she'll be happy to take your questions there. Thank you very much, Tina.
Thanks, Tina.
Yes. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay,
Hey,
that
she
was
has
a
a very
great
nice
presentation.
office. Yeah, and she has a very
yeah.
nice office.
Exactly. Showroom and
Okay.
office and good presentation.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're moving on to our last presentation for this session. And Karen, I'll see you in a bit for our prizes.
Prices. Okay, see you in a bit.
All right, see you in a bit. Okay, so I'm going to invite CJ Rosenbaum from Amazon Sellers Lawyer. Hi, CJ, how are you doing?
Megla, it's great to see you, but I got to tell you, I can't wait to see you in person. This virtual stuff, it's great. And I think that walkthrough was the best presentation of products I've ever seen, walking through, her office and showing it. But yeah, I can't wait to get back in person.
Yes, likewise. I mean, we're doing Global Sources Summit virtually for the last 2 years. We can't wait to do it in person in Hong Kong, and can't wait to see you speak at the Global Sources Summit. Okay, so CJ, you're going to be talking about how to prevent your supplier from copying your product or selling your product on Amazon. So do you want to go ahead and share your slides and let's get started?
Yeah, I do. Before I get right to the slides, because I've been watching and listening and learning a lot. And, we get calls all the time from people and companies who source products who all of a sudden are having problems with their factories, or they sold to too many people, or they promised them they were going to get the only ones. But we've never once got a call from anyone who either purchased from the global sources, those suppliers that take the smaller orders. And we've never once received a call from anyone that's had a problem from sort of the preferred vendors. So that's why I was looking at, Jean's Sisters was great. If you buy her products, you're most likely not going to have a problem. And the same thing with WinStar, because I can just tell you, we are the largest and the best firm in the world, bar none, at helping with Amazon issues, both for brands and for sellers. And when someone says it's the world's best docking station and they're being presented by global sources, I would bet dollars against donuts that you would never have a problem sourcing products from anyone who is recommended by global sources, because we've never seen it. Not once, not ever. All right, let me figure out how to share my screen. I'm not the most tech savvy guy. Let's see. Slides. No slides. My computer. Upload. Oh, I got to upload it, huh? All right, here we go. This is going to go smoothly. Yeah. Uploading. Little circle is now closing. Sorry, man. I'm a Zoom guy. I share my screen.
And thanks a lot for joining the summit and presenting at the summit, even though you're on vacation. So yeah, thank you so much.
Well, you may hear some screaming in the background. Ellie, my incredible, awesome wife, who's also our director of human resources, is playing Monopoly with Samantha, who some of you have met and Megla has met, along with my stepdaughter, Tam, and my stepson, Finn, and my little guy, Max. Boom, here we go. Slides are up.
Yep, let's get started.
Okay, so what you're talking about when you're trying to protect yourself, from your supplier or your factory or your middleman, it's all about protecting your brand. It is nothing but brand protection. And this is the first event ever. And I've spoken at events all over the world where I'm really just like bursting out of the closet and letting the whole world know that as sellers have matured and you have built your own private label brands into really significant, some international, like world-class brands, we have grown with you. And we have a whole nother website, in addition to AmazonSellersLawyer.com, Brand Protection Amazon, because we saw a lot of bad stuff going on. We saw a lot of brand protection efforts that needlessly harmed sellers, weren't effective, cost you a lot of money. So we started doing it. And my partner, Rob Siegel, manages this area of our practice. And we are, just like those are the best docking stations in the world, my firm is the world's best at protecting your brand on Amazon. And I'm going to teach you today exactly how we do it, our exact process to protect yourself from your supplier, from your factory, from hijackers who buy goods from the same factory, to protect yourself against Amazon itself. This is what works. Okay, so many of you know, I'm a lawyer. I'm really in my heart an entrepreneur who happens to be a lawyer. But I can't get through this and teach you how to protect yourself against your factories and your suppliers and hijackers without really getting into the legal basis for any brand protection. It all boils down to the first sale doctrine. So here's what the first sale doctrine basically says in the United States, and it's solely a US based law. It doesn't exist in Australia. It's actually the exact opposite of what goes on in Europe. Okay. Our intellectual property law system is a first use system in the US. In China, it's who files first. So the point of all this is it's solely, exclusively, only of the US sale. So the first sale doctrine basically says this: you can buy and sell anything you want, anything at all, any branded item, and resell it without violating anyone's intellectual property rights, right? So that's the exact opposite from protecting yourself from your factory, from protecting yourself for your source. So what you need to start doing is figuring out how to get around or how to work within the first sale doctrine. Take your products outside the first sale doctrine so your factory can't sell it, your source can't jump online and start selling it, hijackers can't sell it. So the legal basis of both good and bad is the first sale doctrine. If you have hijackers, your factory, and sources that are selling, and their sales are protected by it, you're toast. We have to figure something out for you. If you can stop them, it's because you have figured out the first sale doctrine and how to get your sales outside of it. So I want to go over the countries with the fewest issues, and then we're going to get into how to really deal with the issues individually. We see very few problems from sources in Taiwan, very problems from sources in South Korea, Mexico, Vietnam, and also practically zero problems coming from factories and sources and manufacturers located in India. Okay. It's just where we see the fewest problems. We see a lot of problems coming out of Chinese manufacturers. And I don't think it's because the Chinese do business differently than anybody else. It's just because of the massive number and the massive percent of factories that are located in China. So, of course, if you have like 90% of the products coming from one country, you have 90% of the problems. But these other countries are remarkably less in terms of the problems. Taiwan, South Korea, Mexico, Vietnam, and India, especially, very, very few problems with your factories or your sources, all of a sudden trying to steal your sales. All right. So what I was talking about before is how to get your products outside of this legal doctrine called the first sale doctrine. Because the first sale doctrine says you can buy and sell anything you want with or without the brand's permission. So I'm going to give you the things that we build into the warranties, the contracts for the brands that we protect. Okay. And what you're trying to do to get your products outside the first sale doctrine is to build in something called a material difference. And it could be anything that the consumer receives from you that they don't receive if they buy from somebody else. All right. And just recently, there was a case that said that post-sale marketing efforts. Okay. So you have your product manufactured wherever in the world you have it made. It has your trademark on it. You're selling it in the United States. You are absolutely crushing it. And someone else comes along and starts selling genuine products. The same thing. It's from your factory. It's from your supplier, and they're selling it. But what you do is you follow up every sale 2 months later with an email saying, hey, buy another one. Hey, here's an accessory for it. Hey, I bought these 2 mesh routers. Why don't you now buy the extender, the amplifier, right? And does it change the product? No, product's the same exact thing. But there was a recent decision in a federal court that said that consumers who receive post-sale benefits like coupons or notices or promotions to buy another one, that's a material difference. It's not on my list. It's a brand new one. Write it down. And then we'll get into the other kind of tried and true ones. But I wanted to make sure that you knew the latest and the greatest information. Okay, so these are the things that work specifically on Amazon to beat the first sale doctrine argument by the hijackers or by your factory or by your source. And Meg, am I talking like 100 miles an hour? Am I going too fast? Am I good? All right, she's not beating me with a stick. So I'll assume that I'll try and take a breath here and there. Okay, so some of the things that we argue for our sellers to get rid of hijackers, get rid of competing factories and sources, is that when the products are stored in your own warehouse, you control the temperature and you control the humidity. Now, for some products, this is vital. Health and beauty products, like maybe shampoo or something, isn't as effective. It could be vital. Other things, like you want to store things that are dry, like electronics. And the reality is, I don't really know if temperature and humidity controls really protect products or the packaging, but I can tell you this. When it comes to Amazon, arguing to Amazon that the sale of your products is outside the first sale doctrine and all these other sellers should be gone, the argument works. Okay. Another thing that we do when we're protecting brands is we argue that if you're buying from the brand, if you're buying from the authorized seller and not the factory and not the wholesaler who's screwing you over, is that you do batch checks to ensure the products are not expired, defective, or damaged. Now, you can control how you do it, and you can do it really well. The other hijackers, the factory and the sources, they might be doing batch checks as well, but they're not doing your batch checks. So are their checks as good as yours? I don't know. I can tell you this argument works on Amazon. So if your goal is to stop your factory, to stop your supplier from starting to compete with you. Once they see that your product is really taken off, maintaining batch checks and documentation to support that really works very, very well. All right. Restrictions on commingling of inventory at Amazon. We argue this. It works, even though it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So I'm a big believer in a saying. It goes like, it's easier to ride the horse in the direction that it's going, right? So this argument works, even though we all know that Amazon will mix your inventory up with inventory from other sources, including your factory. But the argument works. So we do it. We stop other people and companies from selling our clients' branded products. And this argument works. Will it always work? I don't know. But I know it's working today. I know it worked last month. I know it worked 6 months ago and 12 months ago. So keep this note, take a screenshot, take a picture. The argument works to stop even your own factory from selling genuine products. All right. Something that works really well on Amazon that also doesn't really seem to make a whole lot of sense is Amazon specific packaging. Okay. Amazon loves, for some reason, if you package your products differently solely for sale on Amazon. And if your factory is not doing that, it's a slam dunk easy way to stop them from selling your products. Customer service and customer training. If you're having a product manufactured and you're selling it on Amazon, and after a consumer buys it, they can reach out to you for training, for support, for someone to talk to, for extra written material. This is something that other companies, including your own factory, can't provide because it's not you. They can't provide the same written material because it violates copyright law. So there's a lot of things that you can do to increase the level of your customer-centric behavior, your customer service, that also has the benefit of being a tool for you to use to stop unauthorized sellers, including your own factory or your wholesaler. Something else that works tremendously well, especially when it comes to products for children, is the ability to receive the notice and implement recalls. Okay. Now, if you were to read all the recall notices in the United States, you would think it's like recall mania, right? That every single product is getting recalled all the time. There's nothing but safety issues. But the reality is the number of recalls issued in the United States is like infinitesimal, like nothing. Okay. So what happens is when the United States government has an issue with a product, they'll only send the notice, right, to the registered brand, to you. Okay. They're not going to send it to your factory. They're not going to send it to your wholesaler. They're going to send it to you. And you alone have the ability to notify consumers that you're aware of and recall the products. All right. So this argument works tremendously well on Amazon if you need to use it. There are also different labeling requirements that we will see on products where products that are intended either for Amazon or for sale specifically in the United States, or even specifically for sale in portions of the United States. When you include these as part of your product, this is an argument that works to stop unauthorized sales, specifically on Amazon. So again, a lot of these things make sense. Some of them don't, but every single one of these works to persuade Amazon when it's necessary. And we're going to get to when you should, and I think more importantly, when you should not, notify Amazon that they got to take somebody down. Okay, so this is our workflow. This is brandprotectionamazon.com workflow. This is what we do for, I think we represent, around 210 different brands right now. We represent a ton of brands in health and beauty. We represent bean manufacturers, hairbrush manufacturers, eyeglass, the strings that hold your eyeglasses, toys, super expensive hair dryers, and electric shavers. I use a razor myself. And this is the exact process we use. So you're welcome to use it. First thing, data collection. you need to monitor every single ASIN every single day. Okay. Every ASIN every single day. We do every ASIN twice a day. But if you own your brand, if you want to make sure no one is hijacking your listings, no one's stealing your sales, every ASIN every day. Step number 2, we're going to go through each of these steps. And I'm probably going to go over, Megla. I'm sorry. I'm always a little long-winded. Cease and desist communications. Okay. Megla, how much time do I have? Can I go over a little bit? You popped on the screen for a sec.
Yeah, I did. I did. I just wanted to say, yeah, you're good. So you can go for another 10 minutes or so. Is that okay?
Yeah, I'm not going to screw anybody else up because I'm last, right?
Yeah, we just got prizes to give away at the end. And yeah, that's it. So yeah,
All
you're
right.
last.
I'll put on the afterburners. I'll talk even faster than I normally do. Okay. But if I start just jamming, it's not even words. You got to give me a heads up. Okay. So cease and desist communications are vital. Okay. It's a way you inform the unauthorized seller, whether it's your factory or wholesaler or anybody else jumping on your listing, to stop selling your products, why they should stop. And we have anywhere from like a 60 to 80% success rate without ever harming a seller. Deep dive investigations, you got to identify the unauthorized seller. You got to make sure who it is. Now, Amazon started publishing their identities, names, and addresses, I guess about a year or so ago, 8 months ago. It made it easier, but it's still not a slam dunk. So you're going to have sellers, especially your factory, who are going to be using false addresses to sell. Test buys. Amazon requires you to do a test buy. If you actually have to make a complaint, you have to have certain tracking numbers on the test buys. When you can't get your factory, wholesaler, or just hijackers to stop selling amicably, to me, that is the only time you should actually make a complaint on Amazon, because I don't believe in ever needlessly harming a seller. I don't want to put anybody out of business. I don't want to make it so anyone ever gets laid off. So we only make complaints after having given 3 different shots to stop selling amicably. Okay. And now you know how to make the complaint. You do it through your brand registry account. I think you can do 100 ASINs at a time. If you need to, you go back, monitor, and all over again. That's basically how we do it. We also divide. When we identify an unauthorized seller selling your brand, we have our first-time offenders, someone who's already received our C&D, someone who's received our 3rd notice, and then it's the people who we are just knocking right out. So if you receive one of our notices, man, give me a call. Okay. We don't want to hurt you, but if you hire us to protect your brand, we're going to do it hardcore. All right. This is some of the data collection you need to do. Monitor every single ASIN every single day. You want to monitor your C&D, your cease and desist sent out. Who got the first one? Who got the second one? Who got the 3rd one that says you better stop now, or you may lose your entire business? And you also want to make sure you're really doing a good job at tracking your test buys and your Amazon complaint history. About 4 years ago or so, we were hearing murmurs that in China, that Amazon in China was monitoring, like a social monitoring, and they ranked who's the complaints they were going to pay attention to and who they weren't. And we don't know if they're doing it yet in the United States, but it feels like they are. So don't make any baseless complaints. Don't ever allege counterfeit if it's not counterfeit. Okay. Counterfeit is different than outside the first sale doctrine, because you want to maintain your complaint submission history so that all of your complaints are always, treated like gospel. Okay. Never needlessly harm sellers. C&D communications. You want to make sure you explain to the seller, to the wholesaler, to the brand, why they can't sell the products. All they know is that they're allowed to buy and sell whatever they want, and Amazon doesn't enforce distribution agreements. So you got to tell them, you got to teach them, polite, courteous, but strong. This product is outside the first sale doctrine because we don't use FBA, and we store our products in a heat, in a temperature and humidity controlled environment, which you can't do because you don't have keys to my warehouse. Okay. We provide post-sale support. Explain why they can't do it. It helps get them out. Okay. So here's some of the stats and how we do our C&Ds. Okay. You can start with the address that Amazon has on file. If you can't find them, do more of a deep dive. We hire private investigators. We use like police authorized databases. And some of you may hate this, okay? You may hate that we're protecting brands, but a lot of you built your own brands. We do asset searches, okay? And I am not shy about having a private investigator show up at a seller's home or office, say, hey, we know you own those 5 properties, and if you continue to harm our brand, we may go after some of those assets. Very, very effective, very persuasive, okay? So you start with a notice. Number 2, still polite, but a little more strong. Number 3, dude, stop selling or it's going to get really ugly really quickly. Okay, test buys. You want to make sure that you are doing the right thing, okay? If you're using something like a warranty or a post-sale benefit, you're not going to have this issue as much as others. If you're concerned that they're selling like an older product, like a 2020, in 2022, the test buys become vital. I recommend you do a lot of pictures, okay? As a product comes in, as you're opening it, it's not hard to set up. I would recommend even doing it video. It makes it a lot easier. Put in a big memory card. I was going to use a curse there, but I controlled myself. A big memory card, roll the camera, have it pointed down at the products as you're opening it. You hold it up to the camera, just like the woman from Windstar was doing with the routers. It records everything in case you need it, okay? But that's the test buy. You got to be really good at it in case you need it. In your brand registry account, there's great ways to make the complaints if you need to do it, okay? But again, please never needlessly make a complaint against another Amazon seller. When we do that, what you're doing is putting that business entirely at risk, okay? IP complaints have always been the bane of every single Amazon seller, large and small, that an IP complaint can put them right out of business, freeze their inventory. Amazon holds their money. They won't return anything, right? And then they have to ask for a retraction. And if you're simultaneously trying to protect your brand and sort of maintain your reputation and credibility to Amazon, you don't often have the freedom to retract the complaints, because when you retract the complaints, you got to say it was made in error. So you don't want to do a whole lot of those. If you do make a complaint in error, for God's sake, retract it, okay? But one, you should not have to make that many complaints. You shouldn't, because your C&D should have a 60 to 80% effective rate. Easy, okay? And when you do, just know what you're doing, man. You got to know that you're putting this seller at significant risk. Okay, here's a screenshot of the report of violation page. Okay, I'm running out of time. If you guys want to take a picture of it, help yourself. I sent the slideshow to Megla. They can put it on out there. This is the report of violation. The arrows show you what you really got to pay attention to. That spreadsheet at the top is how you can do a whole bunch of ASINs and a whole bunch of hijackers, all at once. Okay, that's it. And that's how you protect yourself against your factories, wholesalers, hijackers, your former partners. Okay, before this thing came up, I got a text from my ex-wife. She's like, hey, can you get in touch? Protect yourself against your ex-wife too. You split up and all of a sudden she starts selling your products. Okay, my ex-wife doesn't do any of that. We actually have a really good relationship. Wait, yeah, Sam, we have a great relationship. Any event, this is how you protect yourself. Okay, all kidding aside, follow the program. It works. Don't ever make a complaint against a seller, a wholesaler, your factory, unless you really have to. They've ignored all 3, C&Ds. They never called you to work out a sell through. But this is the process we use. We have a practically 100% success rate. And normally I would never reveal that kind of stuff because I can't guarantee we're going to be 100% successful for you. But I can tell you this system works. How far over did I go?
Not much at all. And we've got a couple of questions. So you did great.
Question, can you
do you want me
slow
to
down?
remove your Do you want me to remove your slides?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
All right,
Awesome.
Here we go.
So guys, let us know if you have any questions for CJ. And I see a couple of questions already. So what are your thoughts about Chinese trademark squatters, in which someone else registers your trademarks, suddenly prevents you from using a brand in China? How do we prevent it?
You can't. Well, I don't want to say you can't. First of all the trademark squatters are not located in China. Okay. So I hate generalizing, but there is a lot coming out of China because a lot of businesses. I mean, if you did a heat map of Amazon sellers, Shenzhen would be on fire. Okay. Absolutely on fire because all the electronics are there. And then what would be on fire next? Brooklyn, New York. Okay. Not too much in common between Shenzhen and Brooklyn, New York, but that's the way it is. So what can you do? If you register your mark in China, you can prevent it. And there are tons and tons of Chinese intellectual property agencies that can do that for you. Once you have the mark in the US, you can try and use something called WIPO, WIPO, the World Intellectual Property Organization. And through this thing called the Madrid Protocol, you can file in China for like an extra $300. But the Chinese system doesn't match very well with the rest of the world. So I would suggest use a Chinese IP agency as soon as you create your brand. And that would give you the first to file in China and protect yourself. Okay. If you don't do that and someone in China files first, they got the rights in China. And Donald Trump had this problem. Michael Jordan had the problem. Range Rover had the problem. Okay. In fact, and I'm not getting into politics, there is still to this day a Trump toilet seat for sale in China. Okay. So you can protect yourself by having someone file it in China. WIPO doesn't work very well. As far as I'm aware, that's the only way to do it. Be the first to register your mark in China, and then you're protected.
Awesome. Raj is asking, do you have a CND template?
We do, but I'll give you a better one because we generally don't sell forms. Now you guys hire us to do your plan of action. We don't recreate the wheel every time or reinvent the wheel, but we don't really use templates either, except as the basic format. So look up cease and desist communication, Johnny Walker Whiskey. It is the best cease and desist letter ever written. It identifies the history of the brand, what is different about it, why you can't sell it in a really nice, polite, even a bit humorous way. Okay. Look at Johnny, is that the whiskey? Johnny Walker. No, not Johnny Walker. Jack Daniels. I guess I stepped up my game a little bit with my whiskey. Jack Daniels. Look up Jack Daniels cease and desist letter. It's the best in the world.
Okay, fantastic. Let me see if there are any more questions here. I don't see any questions. So guys, if you want to get in touch with CJ, AmazonSellersLawyer.com. That's their website. They are literally the best agency in the world. If you are in any trouble with Amazon, if your listing gets closed, you're hijacked, or any other trademark issues, CJ is the man to go, and his team is absolutely awesome. I've known CJ for, I don't know how many years now, I think 6 years or so, right from the very first Global Sources Summit. Yeah, I think you've spoken at practically almost all Global Sources Summits so far.
And somehow I don't bore anybody yet, at least.
Not yet. You're always invited back. Awesome. Well, CJ, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing all of this information. It was very insightful, and I'm sure our audience would have gained value out of it. So I'll see you around, CJ. Take care.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of your vacation.
Thank you. Hey, I just want to say one thing. The reason why I'm the best, okay, is because we have the best team in the world. So it'd be really remiss of me and disrespectful not to do a call out. I have the greatest partners, Anthony Familaro and Rob Siegel, the best senior paralegals, Van and Ashley and Carrie, and just everyone who touches your account, college educated, half of them have like master's degrees. So my team is the best in the world. That's why we win the most reinstatement. That's why we're the best. It's not necessarily me. It's just I have a phenomenal team behind me.
Yeah, you're just being modest, CJ.
I fail at it.
Really enjoyed it. Great session. Thanks heaps for the info. Do you do trademarks?
I do, but you don't need me. Okay. So if you need a trademark to sell on Amazon, we can do it for you. You can actually do it yourself. The form is really, really easy. But if you use the people in bed with Amazon, they make it really smooth to get brand registry. So here's what I suggest. Apache, do some Google research first to see whether or not your mark is likely to get approved. If you don't know how to do that, you can hire us to do that. We charge like $750. But then you go to Amazon's lawyers, Amazon IP accelerators, like 20 or 30 firms who are in bed with Amazon. Let them do it for you, and they'll get your brand registry within days. So yeah, I can do it, but I stopped taking the work because I just think your goal is to get brand registry, right? So use them, but do make sure that either you do it yourself, you hire me another lawyer, because the IP accelerator lawyers don't do any research. They follow the application, and then you'll like get into it. You're doing brand registry, you're making money, you're getting products come in, and then it gets rejected because no one did the research first. I've had, I don't know, about a half a dozen different sellers who got brands through IP Accelerator, who then their applications ultimately got rejected. Okay. So either do the research yourself, hire me to do the research, but then use IP Accelerator to actually get the mark.
Right. Makes sense. Well, okay, CJ, thank you so much for joining us, and you have a good night.
Thank you, Meg. You too.
Thanks. Bye. Okay, so let's move on to the last segment. And Karen, welcome back.
Yay, I'm back with the prices.
You're back with the prizes. I'm going to invite, first let's do one prize, and then we're going to invite Amy. Amy's waiting backstage, and she's going to help us with some of the prizes. So we've got 4 prizes that we're giving away today. And the last one is a mega prize. So let's do the first 2 prizes first. And this is, we're giving away an annual Ship Savvy membership at 50% off, worth $145 to 2 people. So $145 worth of savings. And if you guys were with us yesterday, you would have seen Jamie Paris's presentation. He talked about Ship Savvy, which is basically his tool for pallet optimization. Very useful. So let's select 2 winners for this. Okay, are you guys ready for the question? Now, I'm going to display the question on screen, and then the first person to answer correctly will be the winner. So you've got to type fast. You can Google or whatever, but you've got to type fast. So be ready at your keyboard or on your mobile phone. Just be ready, okay? No typing with 2 fingers. That's going to be slow.
I was just going to say that.
Andy, if you're there, no typing with 2 fingers. All right, let's go. Here is your first question. What does DDP stand for? Now, again, this is an easy one. And if you attended our session yesterday with Steven Salikoff and AJ, you know this. And if you're an Amazon seller, you probably know this as well. You probably use this. So let's see. Well, Steven Salikoff advises not to use DDP, especially as you're scaling. When you're starting out, it's okay to do that. Do we have a winner, Karen?
We have one winner here.
Congratulations.
Delivered duty paid.
Yes, that is correct. Delivered duty paid. Celeste
And
Peralta.
our second one here, Brian M. also got the answer correct.
Yeah, but Celeste is going to be the winner because we have another question for the second.
Oops, sorry, Brian. Okay,
so Celeste,
Brian, stand ready for the next question.
So what you guys need to do is send an email to summitinfo@globalsource.com and let us know that you won this prize, and then we will connect you to Jamie. All right, so here is your next question, also for 50% off on Ship Savvy annual membership. Okay, this is a bit of a long one. What is the name of Amazon's program for brands to verify and control their brand? And CJ mentioned it a couple of times during his session. I was thinking about that. Oh, he's giving away the answer. Let's see if people can guess again.
It'll be a test for them to see if they were paying attention to CJ.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, okay. We got one here. Okay.
Yay.
Brian. Yay. Okay, so the prize is yours.
Yes.
50% off for Ship Savvy. Yes. Okay, so
Awesome.
Don't forget to email us at submitinfo.com.
So Raj was
Yes,
very
welcome,
lucky
welcome.
yesterday. He won 2 prizes, and he's saying, I'm giving way to others today, so he's not participating.
Oh yeah, and Rash, I'll get back to your email soon. Yeah, I saw his
Yes.
email saying he won the prize already. Yeah, I'll get back to you
Okay.
with that.
So now let's invite Amy for the last 2 prizes. And Amy's been patiently waiting backstage. Hi, Amy. Welcome back.
Hello, how's it going?
It's so much fun. It's going great. We're just having so much fun over here giving away prizes.
Yes, definitely.
Okay. So for the first prize that Amy has, it's a 1-hour coaching session with her where you can ask her any questions that you might have. Are there any topics, any specific topics that people can discuss with you, or is it open to any topic related to sourcing, product development, e-commerce, Amazon?
Anything from concept all the way to launch and beyond. You need a PPC audit, you need help finding a supplier, you want to go over your product ideas, you want help with market research, you need help with your website. Whatever you need, you can cover it on a coaching call.
Okay, awesome. So here's your question for 1-hour coaching with Amy. It's a very easy question now. What does IP stand for? What does IP stand for? Let's see.
See, this is super easy.
Super easy. Yeah, I wanted to make them easy
Well, that
because
could
it has
be a
to be
lot of
fun.
things. There's a couple of versions of IP, right? But I
Yeah,
think
but
I
in
know the
terms
one
of
you're looking
Amazon,
for.
in terms of Amazon, and we've got winners. Who's
Yes.
the first one?
The first one is Brian again.
Brian. Brian
You're a
is
fast
very
typer.
quick. Yeah. Well, we've got a lot of people
Congratulations,
who.
Brian. I look forward to meeting you.
Awesome. So Brian, if you could send us an email at summitinfo@globalsource.com. I'm just going to display the email address again over here, and we will put you in touch with Amy. Okay, and now the mega prize, the mega prize. Okay, Amy, why don't you tell us what the mega prize is?
Well, we are doing something that hasn't been done before. Myself, Tim Jordan, and Norman Farrar, we are actually taking a trip to Mexico. And this trip to Mexico is to teach you how to source from Mexico and Latin America. And we're so excited about it. It's actually 3 events in one. The first part of the trip is a sourcing trip where you're going to meet manufacturers. We're going to go do a few factory tours. We're going to have 2 days of learning all about Mexico. And yes, Megla put up the link here, themexicotrip.com. We're going to have just epic, really great welcome dinners and all kinds of just great events. And then halfway through that sourcing trip, we actually have the first of its kind trade show in Mexico, where you're going to meet manufacturers and you're going to learn. We're having lots of speakers, both on the Mexico side and the American side, to teach you all about this. Because anytime you source from a new country, as I'm sure you guys can attest with all of your sourcing knowledge, it's important to learn the culture and the business in that country. So that's what we're focused on. So many people are wanting to source from Mexico. I know Tim Jordan talked about it earlier today. They're wanting to get closer to North America where they're selling, and it's so quick, you know, the timelines. Now, sourcing from Mexico isn't a direct replacement for China and some of the other, countries, but there's a lot of opportunity. So this is your chance to get in on the ground floor of that. So you'll get, if you come with us on the trip, you're going to get the 4-day sourcing trip with the Evolatum Trade Show. And then we're also doing a Cancun mastermind. So the next 3 days of this 7-day trip is a mastermind in Cancun. And that is just going to be incredible. It's at a 4-star resort, all inclusive. And we are going to learn advanced strategies from the best in the business. So we're combining 3 events into one trip and really breaking ground in Mexico. And we're so excited to do that. And here at the Global Sources Virtual Summit, we are giving away $1,500 off of admission to our sourcing trip in Mexico. $1,500 off of it. So really, really awesome. And we're so excited to do this.
Yeah, this is an awesome mega prize. And so, Amy, is this $1,500 off for either of the trips? And do the trips can people choose one or the other, or do they have to do the sourcing trip and the mastermind both?
Right. So the $1,500 off is either for the Mexico sourcing trip or the VIP, which includes the mastermind. We can't unfortunately take $1,500 off of the mastermind only. So you can choose the sourcing trip, which includes the mastermind, the VIP version, or you can just come on the sourcing trip. And that is the giveaway that we will be doing. So our comment is a little bit, we got to fix it a little bit to say off of the sourcing trip or VIP experience for Mexico there. And it's important to note the dates as well, because whoever wins this prize is probably going to want to be able to go to this trip, right? So the dates are the 2nd through the 7th. That's the sourcing trip, the 2nd through the 7th of April. And then if you choose the VIP experience, that is the 2nd through the 10th of April. And the location is Mexico City. And then if you choose the VIP experience, you'll go from Mexico City to Cancun. And let's talk about what's included in the trip. So what's included in the trip is it is an all-inclusive trip. You get all of your meals, all of the conferences, we're doing a networking party at the Evolatum trade show. Everything is included. The only thing you have to do is get yourself there. So we aren't including the flight from wherever you're coming from, but we are including everything else. Incredible dining, incredible tourism, incredible events. It's just going to be such a great time.
Awesome. Okay, so let's now ask a question for this mega prize. And I've got a question here. So guys, are you ready for your question for $1,500 off this Mexico sourcing trip? Here is your question. When was the first Global Sources Summit held in Hong Kong? Now, this is the in-person summit. When was it held in Hong Kong? I need the month and the year. So you can't just give me the year. It has to be the month. You don't have to give me the dates, but just the month and the year. I didn't want to make this a very easy one, but let's see if anybody will get this.
Everybody's hitting up the Googles right now. They're all
I
I
don't know if they can find it on Google. Interesting. Yeah, I don't know if it's if there's an article or if it's mentioned somewhere. I should have done that before. But I think some people over here might have attended that summit, because I see some people have been associated with Global Source for a long time. So let's see. We don't have any answers yet.
I think I
This is a
attended
tough
the
one.
second one.
I think you attended the one in 2000. Okay, I'm not going to say anything.
I was just going to say, are you going to say the answer? Okay, Emma says November wrong. November
Do you want to just
23rd.
display his answer?
Okay, so this is not the correct answer. So you guys can try something else. Just a month and a year will be good.
Yeah. Ooh, this is a tough one.
Well, it's a mega prize after all.
I want to Google it and see if I can find it.
Yeah, I should have done that before.
I wonder if CJ is Googling it at the back now and then get the prize himself.
Yes.
Hey, so
yeah,
anyone?
I think CJ did attend the very first one, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Come
he
on,
probably
guys.
know the answer.
Give it. Yeah, CJ's not backstage anymore.
Trade shows. Okay. All right. I'm on the website right now. I'm just searching, seeing if I can find it.
This is a tough one.
Look at the site map, you guys. The site map.
Okay, is anyone gonna?
Erin, is
try?
it mentioned on our website, the summit website? I think it should be mentioned there. We did mention it in the introduction. I specifically talked about it in the introduction. But
someone might be going back to the first session now and gonna watch the first 5 minutes to see. That's another option to find out the answer. Let's go to a session from yesterday.
Yeah, the beginning. Or you could also go to globalsource.com/summit. And there is some mention over there. Let me just show the URL here. So if you go to globalsource.com/summit, that's the website for the summit. And you should be able to get a hint from there. I think I made it too tough. I think I made it too tough.
You're like giving the answer away here.
I'm giving hints. Come on, people, take the hint.
Well, the hint is I have only been going to China for a few years before COVID. So, and when I go to China, there's always a Global Sources Summit, and I happen to go to China for a big trade show that happens twice a year. Can I give them the months that it happens twice a year?
Sure. Sure, go ahead.
April and October is the two events that are big that everybody goes to China for. So Global Sources Summit usually happens in coordination with those. And I've only been going to China a few years before COVID. So that should give you an idea of one or the other.
Oh my God, Roy saying
Roy, that's a bit ancient, okay? Maybe you said it was a few years ago.
I wasn't even born then. Roy, I wasn't born then. And I've been doing Global Sources Summit.
It was after 2010.
And Amazion, Amy,
2010, before
COVID. So
before COVID,
this is not it. Okay.
Oh, we got a winner.
Oh, I see someone.
Guessing dates. Just start
We
going.
got a winner.
You have got a winner, Skygale 79.
Yay!
Congratulations.
Was it really
Skygale.
2016? Wow.
Yes.
It seems like so long ago, 2016, right?
I know. It's like a previous era. Well, now you can say it's pre-COVID. Like it's a different era now. A couple of other people have got it right too. So do you want to just display their names? So MC Belkaya has got it right.
And then
lots of other guesses. 2011, 2019, 2012. 18.
And Brian, good tries. Amazion as well. Just trying every single year in the past decade. Yeah.
So please send us an email at summitinfo@globalsource.com, Skygal, and we will connect you with Amy. And hopefully you'll be able to go on this trip in April, which sounds very, very exciting. Well, Amy, thank you so much for joining us and for giving this super mega prize to our audiences. Really appreciate it. And I will see you around.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
and thanks for allowing us to talk to you guys about Mexico. And thanks for a great summit. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Awesome. That was fun. That was so much fun. I didn't realize that's going to be such a difficult question. I should have Googled it before I posted it.
Well, it's worth a difficult question because it's a mega prize, $1,500.
Exactly.
That is a big prize.
Awesome. So with that, we come to the end of session 3 of Global Sources Virtual Summit. My gosh, how time is flying. It was just like we just started, right?
Yeah.
So we've got one more session to go in the evening today. And we've got a couple presentations. First of all, Professor Neil O'Connor is going to be talking about diversifying supply chains. And he's been doing a very interesting study where they've been talking to various or tracking a lot of different brands and importers and seeing where they are moving to in terms of sourcing, which countries they're moving to and why they're moving. And this is like a very long-term study that they've been doing. So it's very interesting to see what sort of experiences these brands are having as they diversify out of China. And then we've also got Kian Gulzari coming up, and he's going to be talking about 5 tips to get the best results from your supplier. He's, of course, very, very experienced in sourcing, and his information is absolutely on point and very actionable information and advice that he shares. So that is a session that you should not miss if you are sourcing in China. And then lastly, we've got Casper from Product IP coming up, and he's talking about selling in Europe and what are some of the product compliance issues that you need to be aware of in 2022. So great lineup of speakers and sessions to wrap up the summit. And then Karen, what about the suppliers? How many suppliers do we have in the last session and what products are we covering?
Well, we'll have 5 suppliers in the last session. Some really cool product. There's one portable power generator I found is pretty interesting because it's for bikes and for going out, eco-friendly. And then we'll also have some sterilizing tumbler and gadgets, some eco-friendly products as well from around the world. So do stay for those. I'm sure you'll be interested. And then at the end of the session, at the end of the final session, we'll also have some more prizes for you. One will be from Casper of Product IP. And then we'll also have free hotels for visiting our next physical show, which hopefully will happen soon. Yeah. So
awesome.
That's my part.
Awesome. Great. So Raj is saying, great session. Thank you all. Thank you so much, Raj, for joining us and staying until the end of the session. So yeah, it was a really interesting session. Lots of information shared. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us. And we will see you in a couple of hours, in about 6-7 hours from now, for the last session of Global Sources Virtual Summit. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.